What is a hero? A mythological figure, often of divine descent, endowed with great strength or ability? An illustrious warrior? No. It's a person admired for achievements and noble qualities, one who shows great courage. Welcome to the What's a Hero podcast, where we dive deep into what a hero is and what makes them that hero. I'm your host, Ken Fraunfelter, and I'm going to be introducing you to some of the world's most likely and unlikely heroes. You may have never heard of them before, and they most likely have never met you. But they all have one thing in common. They are ready to do whatever it takes to help make you better, even if it means sacrificing everything for you. Let's get into it.
This is episode 68 of the What's a Hero podcast with me, Ken Fraunfelter. 159 years ago today, in 1863, Confederate General Robert E. Lee sends a letter of resignation to his president, Jefferson Davis. This resignation is following the defeat at the Battle of Gettysburg. Since the summer of 1862, Lee was successful in taking the pressure off his home state, Virginia. His most recent campaign in July 1863 brought his army into Pennsylvania. So far, Abraham Lincoln had appointed 4 Union generals to try and defeat Lee's army. General George Meade would be the 5th commanding general to face Lee's rebels. A rebel infantry brigade noticed Union cavalry around the town of Gettysburg and decided to mount a reconnaissance in force the next morning on July 1st. On the first day of fighting, keeping up with their momentum, the rebels broke through 2 Federal corps, pushing them south of the town. The Federals would take defensive positions on formidable high ground. On the second day, the confident and outnumbered rebels attacked the Federal positions for several hours until nightfall and were unable to break them. On the third day, Lee assembled every cannon he could find to launch the largest bombardment of the war at that point. He then ordered a 12,000-man frontal assault on the Union center and a 5,000-man cavalry attack on their right flank. Both of these were beaten back, and the Army of Northern Virginia had now lost 1/3 of their men. Lee's wounded army would maneuver back into Virginia. Once home, he was able to fully reflect what happened and wrote this letter on August 8, 1863. The general remedy for the want of success in a military commander is his removal. This is natural, and in many instances proper. For no matter what may be the ability of this officer, if he loses the confidence of his troops, disaster must sooner or later ensue. I have been prompted by these reflections more than once since my return from Pennsylvania to propose to Your Excellency, the propriety of selecting another commander for this army. I have seen and heard the expression of discontent in the public journals at the result of expedition. I do not know how far this feeling extends in the army. My brother officers have been too kind to report it, and so far the troops have been too generous to exhibit it. It is fair, however, to suppose that it does exist, and success is so necessary to us that nothing should be risked to secure it. I, therefore, in all sincerity, request Your Excellency, I'm going to get this word right, Your Excellency, to take measures to supply my place. I do this with more earnestness because no one is more aware than myself of my inability for the duties of my position. I cannot even accomplish what I myself desire. How can I fulfill the expectations of others? In addition, I sensibly feel the growing failure of my bodily strength. I have not yet recovered from the attack I experienced the past spring. I am becoming more and more incapable of exertion, and am thus prevented from making the personal examinations and giving the personal supervision to the operations in the field, which I feel to be necessary. I am so dull in making use of the eyes of others, I am frequently misled. Everything, therefore, points to the advantages to be derived from a new commander, and I the more anxiously urge the matter upon Your Excellency, from my belief that a younger and abler man than myself can readily be obtained. I know that he will have as gallant and brave an army as ever existed to second his efforts, and it would be the happiest day of my life to see at its head a worthy leader, one that would accomplish more than I could perform in all that I have wished. I hope Your Excellency will attribute my request to the true reasons, the desire to serve my country, and to do all in my power to ensure the success of her righteous cause. I have no complaints to make of any one but myself. I have received nothing but kindness from those above me and the most considerate attention from my comrades and companions in arms. To your excellency, I am specially indebted for uniform kindness and consideration. You have done everything in your power to aid me in the work committed to my charge without omitting anything to promote the general welfare. I pray that your efforts may be crowned with success, and that you may long live to enjoy the thanks of the grateful people. Confederate President Jefferson Davis rejected his resignation and quickly wrote back on August 11th to the general. But suppose, my dear friend, that I were to admit, with all their implications, the points which you present, where I am to find a new commander who is to possess the greater ability which you believe to be required. I do not doubt the readiness with which you would give way to one who would accomplish all that you have wished. And you will do me the justice to believe that if Providence should kindly offer such a person for our use, I would not hesitate to avail of his services. My sight is not sufficiently penetrating to discover such hidden merit, if it exists, and I have but used to you the language of sober earnestness when I have impressed upon you the propriety of avoiding all unnecessary exposure to danger, but because I felt our country could not bear to lose you. To ask me to substitute you by someone in my judgment more fit to command, or who would possess more of the confidence of the army or the reflecting men of the country, is to demand an impossibility. It only remains for me hope that you will take all possible care of yourself, that your health and strength may be entirely restored, and that the Lord will preserve you for the important duties devolved upon you in the struggle of our suffering country for the independence which we have engaged in war to maintain. Lee would continue to hold command of the Army of Northern Virginia and prolong the war for another 2 years. Abraham Lincoln was frustrated that Meade let the rebel army escape and would find his men at the end of 1863. Ulysses S. Grant. So if you see that, you see, and obviously one thing that I noted first off is their eloquence in their writing. The things that they would say, the way they would say it's so much different than how we say it today. That aside, you see a man here who he just failed a major campaign, and well, in his estimation, he failed a major campaign. In pretty much all estimations he did. But he then takes his ego and puts it aside and says, hey, boss, take this. I don't deserve this. And the boss says, yeah, you do. I don't see anybody better for the job. Politics aside, North, South, rebels, Confederate, Federalist, doesn't matter. What the thing here that I'm trying to explain or trying to showcase on this one is the fact that you have a man here who is a solid leader. He knows how to lead men. His men love him. The people above him love him. He does a good job. And he goes and tells his boss, I'm not doing a good job. And his boss says, I don't see anybody that can do the job better. If I knew who he was, I would absolutely bring him forward, but I don't have him right now. So what I'm going to do is keep you where you're at. We're going to trust the Lord is going to bring you back to health, and you're going to be capable of doing what you do. But right now, your mind is the mind that I need running the show. It's solid leadership on Lee's part, right? He knows what he's doing. He knows how to do it. He has his own demons that he's fighting. He has his own things that he's questioning himself. And so that is leadership 101 when you get into that point where you are putting your ego aside and you're saying, I need to think about everybody else and what's the best thing for the mission to be accomplished. And it looks like I'm not the one when everybody else is saying you absolutely are the one. But if you subordinate your ego and you put that aside, you are able to come through on the other side and come on the other end and succeed in whatever it is, the mission that you're trying to accomplish. And the reason I read this today, the reason I go over these things today, tell this story is because I have a person here with me today who is just one of those people who has an ego the size of a peanut and says, hey, I'm not going to let my ego come in and try to run the show. He's been a colonel in the U.S. Army. He is probably the highest ranking person I've had on the podcast. And so without any further ado, I want to introduce to you retired Colonel Jeff Crapo. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on. It's great to have you here. And we're not just doing this Zoom. You're actually in the illustrious What's a Hero podcast studio today. I don't know how illustrious it is, but it is.
No, it's great. You were reading that, and I was getting goosebumps because when I was a second lieutenant, I stood with the book Killer Angels on the Gettysburg battlefield, and my battalion commander, we were doing a staff ride, had all the lieutenants and all the officers out there, and we would walk from stage to stage of that battle, and talk each one. And so when you talked about that frontal assault, myself and a couple other lieutenants actually read how that frontal assault went up there and failed multiple times to reach its objective. And so I was just getting goosebumps as you were reading that passage, having stood on that battlefield and looked at it, at least somewhat as the eyes of those soldiers would have looked at it.
Is that a, I guess we all know the Gettysburg Address. We obviously we just heard that story. Is that an extremely poignant battle that we were able to garner a ton of things from as far as militarily?
I think, if you read the book Killer Angels and you talk, I think what it talked about a lot about was initiative and people that took initiative because, communication, and you're talking humongous battlefields and lots of men and really at the precipice of how battle was changing from the weapons they were using to the tactics they were using, and just a few years prior, the frontal assault was a main way to gain, to break another army, right. and then the use of terrain and those type of things. And so, I think we were able to garner at least a real look at leadership and the leadership principles
on both sides.
On both sides, where principles failed. You talk Jeb Stuart, the eyes, and failure to provide information to Lee, and how not providing that information to Lee, he didn't get a good feel of how the Union was stretched out over onto the high ground that they owned, and so he made decisions that he might not otherwise made if he had had better information, and so, and then. How the Union extended its lines and just the heroism, the personal courage to do some of the things, the Union line running out of ammunition, charging downhill with bayonets, those types of things you talk about. And when I look at like the 7 Army values, you can almost see every one of those Army values play out at some point in that battle.
That's cool. And I think, before we get out of here, we're gonna touch on those 7 values. I have a good feeling of it. And I'd like to even if we do.
Yeah, definitely.
But just having that information, that stuff is always interesting to me. I like that stuff, and I read. I have several like history things that I'm whether pages or whatever that I'm subscribed to that I get little notifications from all the time, and you see Today in History and. The last episode, I mentioned that I read some stuff from history, and it was about the guy that caught Billy the Kid and then killed Billy the Kid, right? And I said, hey, we're going to talk about a hero of the day. And I don't necessarily have a hero of the day today for the show, but just having that history knowledge, I think it's fantastic to have that, and you kind of put that in there because it's not just a story that we can tell, but it's a story that we can. There's always more to it. There's always another side to that we're not looking at, and we can learn a ton from. And I think it's fantastic, which brings us to why we have guests on the show today or any day. But you were in the U.S. Army?
Yep, U.S. Army.
For how long?
So I was in the U.S. Army for just under 25 years, and so I'll kind of get to that. So,
but where did... So was that your dream, what you wanted to do, or did you have any idea?
No, it actually was not my dream, and it was not even on my radar. My dad had served in Vietnam, so and he was drafted and served as a infantryman in Vietnam as an enlisted, and then came back and got an opportunity to go to OCS. He went to OCS, became an officer. An infantry officer, and then went right back to Vietnam again. and then he had an opportunity like, you know what, if I just keep going back to Vietnam, I'm not sure if this is going to play out well. And so he got out of the military. So, and really growing up, he didn't talk much about it, but I knew those things happened.
Right.
And so I had that kind of in the background of my mind a little bit. And, but I think growing up, I had always wanted to be a police officer.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I went to college to be a police officer, and it wasn't until I got to college that really I started turning a little bit towards the military.
Well, then let's go back then. Who was little Jeffy? What was his thing? What did he like to do? What was home life like?
So I will tell you. So I was born in Miles City, Montana, which is just a little town in Montana, and my dad worked for Procter & Gamble out there, and things weren't going that great, and he had some friends out in Oregon that talked about all the jobs in the mill industry, in the timber industry. And so I think it was between 78, 79. So I was 7 or 8 years old. I was in the second grade. We moved out to Oregon, and literally we're driving from Montana. I remember this just specifically, driving down I-5, and we're just looking at the exits, the towns, like where we're going to pull off to live. I mean, that's the plan.
No plan, no end game, huh?
Yeah, no, like where we're going to find it. Because I remember as we're driving south, okay, hey, what about this place? And what about this place? And there's no internet at the time. And so none of that stuff. And I remember we got to Grants Pass, and we pulled off, and we're looking at the place. And then my mom said, hey, let's just keep going a little further south. And we pulled off at Medford. I mean, that was the plan. We had friends in Medford, I remember, and we stayed a couple nights with those friends because we had
just what was in your car, huh?
Just what was in the car. I remember just what was in the car, and school was getting ready to start. And so my mom, we were exceptionally poor, like really poor. And I know we had a Wagoneer loaded up with things, and my mom was like, we've got to find a place to live. We got to get these kids enrolled in school. And that's just what we have to do.
And you had some siblings with you?
Yeah, I had my older sister and younger brother.
Okay.
And I know it was maybe like a week later, we found a 2-bedroom apartment and I don't know how familiar you are with Medford, but probably the worst place in Medford right now. You know where OK Market is in Medford?
I
okay. So it's on Riverside, and the people listen to it from Medford will know, and it's on Liberty Street. And so right now it's probably the roughest part of Medford.
Really?
Like it is really. But I drove by that apartment multiple times. It's a 3-unit apartment. We lived on one of the end units, and we got a place there. Me, my brother, sister shared 1 bedroom, and I remember my parents built bunk beds for me and my brother, and my sister, they built her a bed, and so it was because a small room. I mean, it wasn't room for 3 beds in the room, and I specifically remember that where we lived in the city. And I'm not sure why, but I don't know if it was inner city busing was a thing, but we got bussed out to West Side Elementary. And if you know, it used to be a naval reserve center, but it's clear out like, Jacksonville, Old Stage Road area. It was an hour bus ride out there. And we were literally, a 5-minute walk from Jackson Elementary School.
At your house?
At my house. So if I walked down, I could walk down to Jackson Elementary School about 6, 7 minutes. It was,
but they bust you an hour.
But they bust us an hour to go to West Side Elementary. And this small group of inner city kids that all in my neighborhood would meet at these 4 or 5 different bus stops and get bussed out to West Side Elementary. And it was really, I had a tough growing up. We literally had no money because my dad got here right when the spotted owl thing was happening.
Okay.
And so the jobs just completely dried up in the timber industry. And I remember our car got repossessed. I remember that night, specifically standing outside watching them load up that Wagoneer that we brought from there and haul it away, and not understand, being a little kid, 2nd, 3rd grade, like, why are they taking our car?
Where they going?
What's going on with this? And then we had no car for a while. And then I remember, we got a used car a little while later. My dad did finally get on at Timber Products out in White City at Medco, and would work out there for the next 20 years. And my mom would work at Harry and David for a while. And so things got better for us, but we still just really making ends meet was tough in this. And I remember I rode my bike and played street football out, till the lights went on, and then came inside.
And there wasn't much like staying inside and just watching TV all the time. It was
there was no TV. There wasn't any TV. The only TV was cartoons on Saturdays morning. So we got up before the light came up me and my brother to sit in front of the TV till the cartoons came on. But that was the only TV. I remember when HBO came out, when it very first came out, we got HBO. My dad got HBO or rent, and I remember the kids all in the neighborhood came to my house to watch Superman that was on there. That was like all these kids came to the house, and it was like a huge thing,
right?
And I remember in the neighborhood we were one of the first people to get a VCR, the top loading VCRs.
Wow!
And but there was only maybe 2 or 3 places in all of Medford where you could rent videos. And there were all these cheesy videos and horror things. And
right.
stuff.
Yeah. They were.
You know, things were different back then. I mean, we were kicked out of the house, and you just stayed outside and came in for lunch and outside again, and you didn't come in till the lights came on. I remember when the street lights came on, you better be making your way home.
Yeah, we had the same rule, and it was check in every once in a while.
Right.
It was lunch or whatever was enough of a check in. Maybe come in and get a drink.
Yep.
If you're not drinking out of the hose.
That's right.
And then you go and you play, and you're out there, you're sweating all day, you're getting your butt kicked with, riding bikes and throwing rocks and tackling each other with football or whatever.
That's right.
And then I got to go, guys. And everybody understood that you said, oh, no, I look, the lights are on. And you see everybody scatter like cockroaches when the lights come on.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, when the lights come on, it was time to get home.
Yeah, you better be home.
You better be home.
That couple minutes of that light coming on. Yeah.
That's right. Because that was the gig. Things would be bad if it wasn't. But I remember it was nothing for us to just be running the neighborhood, really. Just the neighborhood with maybe a 10-block radius. But run the neighborhood day in and day out.
And you don't realize how hungry you are. And then when you get inside and you smell mom cooking or something like that. And I remember that specifically. I'm like, what are we having? It would be like, we didn't have a ton of money either. And it would be like hamburgers on bread or something like that, those frozen patties or something on bread. But it smelled so good because you're starving as a kid.
I still remember, clearly. I didn't know what it was at the time. I know now, but because everybody in the neighborhood was in the same boat. I mean, everybody that I knew did the same thing. So we'd go down to church, and at the time, there's no food stamps or anything like that. But they would have where they would pass out cheese and bread and all these types of things because that's how it was distributed back then. And I just thought that's just what you did. I mean, I had
because everybody did.
Everyone in my neighborhood. I mean, there was not a single exception. So every kid that I knew, that I played with every day, that's where we all went.
Right.
And I remember we'd play, handball, or we'd play some game out in the church parking lot while my mom did the thing, and then we helped, carry the groceries home, I guess.
Right, right. Because you would see a friend of yours there that you happen to know. Oh, yeah. And they might not be your best friend or somebody you hang out with all the time, but you know them from school. Yeah. And be like, oh, hey.
Oh, yeah, we just formed this group. We'd be playing out there.
Hey, see you later. And then you go home and not think anything of it. And
it wouldn't learn till later that, that was, we were just poorer than most kids out there. And
and then you see one kid, they would get they'd get a toy, a transformer or something like that. You're like, you got that? And it would be he'd be the coolest kid for 2 weeks because he had whatever toy he got for Christmas, or grandma gave it to him or something like that. Or he got a new bike. Right. And everybody wanted to ride it, and everyone tried it out.
I remember when I turned, I think I was 12. My parents got me a Diamondback bike, and at the time, Diamondback was
that was top notch.
That was top notch. It was the first time I wasn't riding a secondhand bike at the time, and it was. I thought it was like the best. It's like getting a brand new car, I guess, or something.
Yeah,
it was just like, oh my God, I've finally reached the pinnacle here. I've got a Diamondback bicycle.
Right. Yeah. You'd park it, whatever, put it in the garage or wherever you put it, and you're looking at it. You're walking backwards. Right. Looking at it as you're walking away from it. Yeah. So I remember I got a Huffy for Christmas, so something similar to that.
Yeah. And so I grew up poor, but I remember my mom was always working to try to get us, to do the things that all other kids that got us into Parks and Rec to play sports. I mean, one of the things was influential is when I was in the 5th and 6th grade, she put me in wrestling. Mm-hmm. And so, I was okay at it. It was something that I was like, okay, I'm kind of okay at this. And that would, stick with me throughout high school. I would wrestle throughout high school and be a pretty decent wrestler. I was no state champion or anything, but I went to state and I, I could hang with everybody at the state champ. I won district my senior year and that was big when you got Eagle Point and Crater here at my time. They were like powerhouse wrestling.
Right. Yeah.
And so, and then I played football. And so those two things, really going up when I went to high school, I went to North Medford High School, were pretty influential for a kid that doesn't have a lot that then finds success in something.
Right. Right.
And the sense of team, and that if I just worked really hard, I could control the things that where growing up being poor, I just had no control of that. I didn't have control to buy new things. I didn't have control to, why do we have a horrible car? Or, why do I share a bedroom with my brother and sister and none of my friends do? And, cause we're being sent out to West Side. Most of those kids are affluent kids from the Jacksonville old stage. And so I'd go out to some of these kids' houses, a huge house. And I was just like blown away. I'd stay the night, and then I was always afraid, like, I don't want these people to come stay at my house. There's nowhere to stay.
Yeah.
And, because that was a big thing. Hey, I'm going to go stay over at this guy's house.
Right, yeah. Spend the night at your friend's house on a Friday night or Saturday night or something.
You would do that. And so a lot of my friends were affluent kids that lived out in the country.
Right.
And so I was always just embarrassed of like, I just don't want somebody to come over to my house to see.
And it was totally out of your control.
And it's complete. I could not change any of that stuff.
Yeah.
But in sports, I could control those type of things. If I just worked harder, if I lifted more weights, if I ran more, if I did those type of things, I could control some of the outcome. I could control whether I won or lost, or the amount of effort. And so I really gravitated towards those kind of things, specifically when I got to high school, when it was really a big thing and there were really, teams really mattered and those type of things.
So you're going through school, and as you're going through school, you start seeing, career counselors pop up and, hey, what do you want to do when you get out and stuff? And you're like, I got to start thinking about that, don't I guess? And so you said that you just wanted to be a police officer. Did it just come out of nowhere at that, or was this one of the things like, hey, that might be a thing I could do? No. So, it goes to when I met my best friend, Greg Costanzo. He's also my partner in my current profession right now. So we met, my best friend, and we would run all through high school together because Crapo and Costanzo, those lockers are right next to each other. Sure, yeah.
And so to know that with the high school I went to, we had moved from the apartments when I was when getting ready to go to freshman. We'd moved clear over to the south side of town, almost going out towards Jacksonville, Lozier Lane, out by the Thunderbird out there in Medford. So I should have gone to South Medford High School, but because my older sister had started at the senior high as a junior, we were she wanted to finish at that same high school. Right. And so she could drive me. So they let me go to North Medford. And then once I started North Medford, I kind of got
your grandfathered in there.
Yeah. But none of my friends from McLaughlin, none of the people I grew up with went to North.
Okay.
And so I was with all the Hedrick kids, and I mean, nobody. So I show up there as a freshman. I know no one there.
Except your sister. She's going in a different direction.
Exactly. My sister and a couple other people that I knew went to North. One of them was a neighbor of mine who was a good friend of mine, Norm Myatt, and I'll talk about him later, just about how two kids that grew up in the same apartment would both end up as colonels in the Army. So what are the chances of that?
Sure.
And but we ended up there, and then I met my best friend, who would be my best friend for the rest of my life. And we would wrestle. I convinced him to wrestle, and we played football together. He was a big baseball guy too. And it was, I think, the start of our senior year. It might have been the end of our junior year. What you do, you go see the guidance counselor, career counselor.
Right.
And at the time, when you went in there, it was like a library, and they had all of these like workbook size pamphlets on all the different professions.
Okay.
You want to be an electrician, you want to be a doctor, you want to do all these things. And those things would have what it would take to get in, what what universities or colleges offered those programs,
Right, yeah.
Whether it was a trade school or you needed to do something else, what your kind of grades needed to be. And so Greg and I we're in the guidance counselor's office together, and we're looking through these things, and police work. We're looking at fire, police. I don't know what drives different people to these types of professions.
Right.
But police just kind of stuck with us, like, hey, that's something.
Or because it's active.
Yeah,
you're doing something.
It's
you're
like a team. You're on a team. You're on,
Right.
You wear a uniform. You're on a team. It's something we had done through high school, wear uniforms, be on teams.
Sure.
It seemed like the next progression was to go out there and do that.
And what year was this?
This was 89 going into, we had graduated.
So
90.
things were still, it wasn't
no
hot.
internet.
It wasn't hot, but
No.
like also the political climate wasn't hot in regards to law
police.
enforcement.
No,
and stuff
police
like
were just police, and,
Right.
and it was a good profession to go into.
Yeah.
It was.
and it still is.
Yeah, it's a
just-
great profession.
It's just there's such a political upheaval, which is so weird.
I think there's a yin and a yang to it. Some people just love the police, and some people think they're
Right.
and it's really probably it was a lot different, I think, when I was there. I don't know that it wasn't like becoming a doctor or a lawyer. I think it was just, it's a good working profession to go into.
Yeah.
And it was something that caught both of our eye. And I remember looking at the pamphlet, where can you go do this? Because I know we wanted to leave Southern Oregon. I don't know. I think every kid wants to get away from home.
Right.
In college. And so we saw Western Oregon State College up in Monmouth, Oregon, was a place you could do that. And Greg and I loaded up in my 1980 Toyota pickup truck and drove up there, and miraculously the truck made it that far. And we went to like org day there, or like orientation there. And I was like, this is a place. Let's do it. It was just a cool place up at, Salem was not too far away. And it was just a cool campus college.
And were you looking to, what do like, what's it called? I'm totally drawing a blank, but like law enforcement studies.
Oh yeah. So the degree offered there was police organization and administration. So it's criminal justice at somewhere else. And it has different variances at different colleges, but ours was called police organization and administration. So basically criminology.
Right.
So if you want to get a degree in that, and the Oregon State Police Academy was there. And it's something that we would think that, like, as we would see these police academy cadets in the Oregon State Police Academy, we'd say, you know what? That's something else we were kind of considering at the time.
Cool,
Hey, we could come back and be state police officers. And do that. And in my mind, one of the things that was always kind of in my mind was, I don't have a lot of money. I was working at Oregon Freightways and breaking freight. Here is a company. It's no longer a company anymore, but it was out in Central Point. And, I was working like in the summer before college every day of the week, breaking freight and trying to get up enough money. But I knew I did not have enough money. I knew I had, even with college assistance and those type of things, I had to get a loan to get through my first thing. And I remember at the time, my girlfriend's dad co-signed for, she'd later be my wife. But my girlfriend's dad co-signed. He was a vice president at US Bank at the time. He co-signed for my FAFSA loan. And
so you can pay for college.
So I can pay for college. So I could get through the first year of college. And I specifically remember it's maybe like our third or fourth day up at college at the time. And I see this, that we're having org day where all the different clubs set up and all this type of thing. And I remember I just looked across the field, and there was this guy standing in our BDU's battle dress uniform. That's our old woodland camouflage pattern. And he's got this sign, and I think it says cash for college. I think is what the sign says on the thing. But he's standing behind this table and everything. His name's Don Bishop, Captain Don Bishop at the time. And I walked over there. I think Greg and I both walked over there. And I'm like, hey, what's this all about?
How do I get some of this?
How do I get some of this? And he's like, okay, hey. And he starts asking us questions. So like, hey, where'd you come from? Well, we're freshmen. We're enrolled in, police science. what can you do? He's like, here's what you got to do. To get a 3-year scholarship in ROTC, you've got to get good grades your first term in college.
Mm-hmm.
You got to pass the physical requirements. We're both athletes. We knew we could probably pass anything.
Sure.
And you have to sign up. You have to be willing to commit to the ROTC program that they'll pay for 3 years of college. What you'll owe them is 4 year. It's an 8-year total commitment, 4 years on active duty and 4 years in the Guard Reserve or inactive Ready Reserve. And I was like, 4 years in the Army? I'm like, okay. And he said
after college.
Yeah, after college, you're going to get commissioned as a lieutenant, and you got to spend 4 years. Well, 4 years when you're 18, 19 years old, that seems like a long time.
Right.
I'm like, oh. And he's like, and you got to join the ROTC program, which is military science. So we're going to have to get a haircut because you got to wear a uniform. And at the time, me and Greg both had these really cool mullets. He's a baseball player at the time. They had mullets. I had an awesome mullet. And I was like, I wasn't as connected to my hair as Greg was. He'll say the opposite, but you know, I was like, I'm doing it. And I'm like doing it. And he's like, I don't think so. It's not something I want to do. Well, once I got my hair shaved and I signed up for the class, he's like, I'm doing it too. And so he came into it.
Cool.
And then we both joined ROTC. And after the first term, we applied for that scholarship. We both had good grades and we applied for that scholarship and both received a 3-year ROTC scholarship, for the regular Army. So to go into the Army, because there's also National Guard scholarships
right.
to become an officer in the National Guard. But we were
full-time soldier.
Full-time soldier.
Right.
And
so
that
you went
started
in
our journey
as a lieutenant because you had graduated college. And so you went in as a first lieutenant.
Yeah,
second lieutenant.
Second lieutenant. So we would spend the next 4 years in military science, getting our degrees in police administration and organization, and also one of the things we would join a team. It's a collegiate sports team in ROTC. It's called Ranger Challenge. And so
that's funny that you say that. I'm in the middle of a book right now written by Tim Kennedy called Scars and Stripes, and he's talking about the Ranger Challenge. He's talking about Ranger Up. He's talking about
So this Ranger Challenge is a sports team done by all ROTC units in the nation. And it has all these different things. You do a physical fitness test, the Army APFT test at the time. You do weapons assembly and disassembly. You do a 1-rope bridge across an obstacle. You do a forced road march. You do shooting. You do all of these different tasks. You do orienteering and these different tasks.
Right.
And you compete as a team. And so we would join that team. And our freshman year, we were just like getting beat up, and we could not, we were not accustomed to 12-mile road marches. And I remember just running 2 miles to start with was like, I thought we had ran a marathon. I was like, oh my God, this is such a huge accomplishment, 2 miles, At the time, I thought it was huge because we had never ran, a 440 football, 440 sprint was the farthest I had ran.
Right.
I was not a runner. And so that would kind of shape us. And as we would go through college, we would take more and more of these lead roles in ROTC.
Okay.
And in between our my sophomore and junior year, both Greg and I would get the opportunity because we're contracted ROTC.
Right.
We were able to go to schools, real military schools. So Greg went to Air Assault School out in Hawaii. So they shipped him. Here he is on break, a college student. Ship him as a cadet out to Hawaii. And he goes
to go parachute.
He goes to Air Assault School. So that's the rappelling out of helicopters.
So that's still cool.
Yeah. Oh, it's awesome.
I remember that when I was in the Marine Corps, and when we did that, it was like Disneyland. They said this is like close you're going to get to Disneyland while you're here.
Yeah.
Sure enough, they were right. I loved the hellhole or rappelling off the side of a building. All that was that was the cat's meow for me. I loved that.
Yeah. So he went to Air Assault School and then would go up to Northern Warfare Training up in Alaska. And I went to Airborne School.
Okay.
And
so you're skydiving.
Yeah. So I'm jumping out of airplanes at Fort Benning, Georgia. And so here I am. And I've got to tell you a little bit about, because this kind of was formative in my life. I met my high school sweetheart my senior year in high school. And we would, after my freshman year in college, we decided to get married. So who would have known? Like, that's a good idea. Let's get married while we're in college.
Yeah.
I'm 20. She's 19. We get married and get a little tiny apartment. So now getting through college is even harder, more strapped for cash.
Right.
I did get a job at UPS, so I'm working at UPS loading trucks, and one of the hardest jobs there is to do is load trucks. And so I've got working the night shift at loading the trucks at UPS. And so I go to airborne school, and me and my wife, we're on like this tight budget and just really tight budget. And so I go there. Well, Desert Storm is just starting up when I get there.
Okay.
And so everybody that's not the 82nd Airborne Division or in a parachute unit gets bumped. So I got bumped 3 weeks. So I have to spend 3 weeks there. I'm not getting paid. I'm not getting any. I'm not getting paid Army. I'm a cadet. I'm
right. You're a college kid.
Yeah, I'm a college kid. They're feeding me. They're letting me live in the barracks for this 3 week break.
Yeah, you're lucky you're getting anything.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But that's 3 weeks of pay I'm not getting at UPS back home.
Right.
And it was just, I just remember talking to my wife on the phone. It's like, well, should I come back, or I just don't know what to do. And she's like, I remember just saying, like, we'll figure this out. We'll figure out how to make it.
Right.
And I remember we had to ask her dad to help pay rent 1 month or something. And made it through. I went to parachute, became airborne qualified. So here now, Greg and I are back in college. And, I'm a paratrooper, right? I'm wearing paratrooper. I'm a cadet.
I got wings.
I've got
on
wings.
my,
Greg's got wings. He's got the air assault wings. And so it really starts to form in my mind that we're like military people,
right?
Like this is what we do. And then going into our senior year in ROTC, you lead things. So you train the other cadets. And so you do the field training exercises. You're responsible for planning all these types of things. And then you go to your culminating school, which is in between the summer of your junior and senior year, you go to your culminating school and you get rated there. And so it all depends on how you ranked. And so Greg and I were both distinguished military graduates. So we did very well at our culminating school, got good grades. And so we're top ranking in the entire ROTC department, which included Oregon State and Western Oregon State College at the time. And so I was the number one cadet that would come out of both of those schools.
Who would have thunk, huh?
Yeah, who would have thunk? And Greg was the number 3. I think he was the number 3 cadet that came out of those schools. So we got pick of branch. So what branch you wanted to go into? Infantry, armor, aviation, all those types of things, which would come back to haunt me a little later. But anyways, and we got pick of duty assignment. And so, but there's only a certain number of those positions that are available, like infantry and those types of things. So I picked infantry, and I think that was the only infantry position available.
Oh, wow.
So I was the number 1. I got the choice of everything. Aviation, like my wife would say, hey, you chose infantry. I don't want to hear anything about it. He's like, you could have been an aviator. You could have been anything you wanted to be. And so I chose infantry and Fort Campbell, and Greg would choose military police and Fort Campbell. And so here's 2 guys that have been together since their freshman year, where their lockers were next to each other.
Right.
Now officers, and he was the best man in my wedding. And then after we graduated and got commissioned, I would be the best man in his wedding. We'd end up living like 4 blocks from each other. Our first duty assignment, Fort Campbell, Kentucky, and would spend the next 4 years training there. But after commissioning, I got commissioned in '94. I'd be a second lieutenant. They send you off to infantry officer basic course down at Fort Benning, Georgia, which is really just prep for Ranger School. If you want to know what it really is, it is about 7 months. 7 months of just prepping you to go for infantry officers to go to Ranger School.
Is it required that infantry officers go to Ranger School, or highly suggested?
So
strongly encouraged.
Strongly encouraged to the point of like religiously encouraged.
Right.
So the one thing about being a second lieutenant in the infantry, so infantry is the ground fighting force. Your mission is to close with and destroy the enemy utilizing fire and maneuver. That's your job. So when you think about what is that job? That job is to close with and destroy the enemy using fire and maneuver. And people don't understand, and it's the basis for all ground operations in the Army, and the Army is the ground force for the military.
Right.
And so all things start there. All things start there. And so to lead in that endeavor as a second lieutenant who's been through 4 years of college and who's got a commission and now been through 7 months of training, now you got to lead those forces. And so Ranger School provides you with a crucible to attain that where you lack experience, you at least have the highest level of operational schooling and training that can be provided to young men that you may be in charge of their life the next day.
Right.
And you are in charge of everything they do or fail to do.
Right. And that's good, bad, or otherwise.
Yes, that's good, bad, or otherwise. And so, and it is a crucible. And so every infantry officer goes to Ranger School. Every infantry lieutenant goes to Ranger School unless you're injured or really unless you're injured.
Then when you get better from being injured,
you're going to Ranger
You get
School.
to go now.
Yeah. And if you don't make it when you're a lieutenant, you're going back as a captain. I mean, you're going there because it's very uncommon to see majors and lieutenant colonels that do not have a Ranger tab. I've seen some. I was with a battalion commander that didn't have a Ranger tab, which was odd.
Is it? Yeah,
it's very odd. That's like, wow, that because it's a stigma. It's a stigma to not have that throughout your career.
Now Ranger School is pretty easy, right? There's not much to it. It's a couple days Club Med and you back to your unit, correct?
Yeah. I mean, basically, it's literally nothing. No, so Ranger School is one of, I would say it's one of the special operations schools in the military. I would say it is one of the hardest because it just sucks really bad. I mean, there's just nothing good about the school. I was watching it compared to Special Forces Selection and Assessment, SFAS, and the Q course and those types of things. And I will say the degree of competency is much higher for Special Forces and those type of things. But continually through this Green Beret was just saying, yeah, but Ranger School sucked more, and it hurt worse at Ranger School, and it was just horrible at Ranger School. Because right now, when I went through it was, I think it was 82 days. It's now 61 days. They took out an entire phase of Ranger School for cost. They took out desert phase. Oh, okay. So when I went through Ranger School, so my only active duty experience, so I get commissioned, get my second lieutenant. I'm leaving college, and I would find myself at Fort Benning, Georgia, and I would go through IOBC, Infantry Officer Basic course, with almost all West Point cadets. It was West Point time, July and August. I started in July.
You were some podunk college.
I'm an ROTC flunky, right? And so in my platoon, literally, there was me, the one ROTC guy, and 2 National Guardsmen, and everyone else was West Point. Wow. And so in this platoon, they all know each other. They've been going to school for 4 years, and they're all in the same branch and so infantry. And it was just crazy that, and I'm married at the time. And I also, me and my wife thought it would be great to have a child while I was in college, not to put any more stress on ourselves.
Sure, yeah.
So I've got a young child. So I am in a demographic that is wildly different than all of my peers that have just come out of West Point. No one's married because you can't be married in West Point. And so no one has kids and no one's married. And so I'm going through this thing, and I've got a wife and a daughter back home and all this stuff. Right. And we're getting ready to go to Ranger School, and we start Ranger School in November. And Ranger School starts, and it's the first 7 days is Ranger Assessment phase, RAP phase. And it's all the prerequisites, all the testing and prerequisites. But the strange thing is that you can't get there without having demonstrated to your commander, like I had to do the schoolhouse, that you could pass all the prerequisites and that you could do the road march and the run and the pull-ups and do all the things that are required, the land navigation. But still somehow the classes normally start between 400 and 450 Ranger candidates. And then the first phase is Derby phase. It's was team and squad tactics is the first phase of Ranger School. But you got to get through that 7 days of RAP. And that 7 days of RAP will take those 400 down to, I think it was around 180. Jeez. So 450 to 180.
Holy cow!
At 7 days, they're getting down to 180.
And these are West Point guys.
These are West Point guys. These are Army guys. These are guys from the Ranger Regiment. These are everybody from the Army is coming to this class
to try to learn to
be a Ranger candidate to try to become to get Ranger qualified, to become Ranger qualified. And so 400 and some people come there of all different. There's Marines there. There's SEALs there. There's Special Forces there. There's everybody's there.
Okay.
From non-commissioned officers to captains, and there's a major there and all kinds of stuff. And we're all there. And yeah, when we marched out to Darby, but at the end of that 7 days, there was 190 of us there, and we'd end up with about 185.
What were people dropping out from? Were they quitting on their own, or was it
just a multitude of things? And so
there's a thing where if you don't get X amount of time on a march, or something like
if you can't do the pull-ups, you can't do it. And it's not just pull-ups; they just wreck you before you even start the pull-ups.
Oh, okay.
So it's not just like I'm going to wake up today, get stretched out, and knock out my
20 pull-ups.
My pull-ups. No, it's like you're going to do an obstacle course, and it is November, it's freezing. I remember there's ice they call this place the worm pit. That you got to go into the barbed wire. There's ice in that thing, and so we're going under there, and I'm just thinking, my hands. Like I don't even know if I can hold on the bar. I'm so damn cold.
Right. Blood is not going to my fingers right now. It doesn't like that neighborhood.
I remember they put us in this water because there's a water obstacle, but the water was maybe like 60 degrees. It felt like being in a hot tub or something, because you could get feeling back in your hands at that 60-degree water because it's 35 outside or something like that.
Sure.
And knocked out the pull-ups, and the people were just dropping for all kinds of things. So land navigation was a huge one.
Okay.
Land navigation took a lot of people because there's this place out there on the land navigation spot, which is called Dinosaur Land. And you get down in there and it's just the worst terrain, swampy, briars. And if you're trying to dead reckon like straight line, you just can get just tore up in there, and you can't make it back in time. And that's what happens to a lot of people. They say, I'm going to make it through this. And they don't take the extra time and the extra distance because you're carrying this big, heavy ruck and everything. They don't want to go around this area, and they say, I'll just make it through. And they don't make it through. They either they make it through and get the point, but they can't get back because they're short on time and they can't run fast enough to get back. And so all of that happens, and eventually they whittle us down to about 180, and we get to Camp Darby and start the first real phase of learning platoon, squad and team tactics, and operations. And at the school, you got to meet these, different things to pass. You got to, you have to clear your patrols. You got to get a go on a patrol. You have to pass peer evaluation. So just because you get a go on the patrol, if all your peers say this guy is horrible and he's not a team player and all that stuff, boom, you're out again. Right. You're done and out. And I remember, and all the while you're not eating, you're not sleeping. The average amount of sleep a night is 0 to 2 hours through the whole endeavor, 0 to 2 hours a night. And you're always at caloric deficit, always. Now they feed you a little bit more. At the time, we would be eating in the chow hall, and you would just eat. You didn't sit down. There's no sitting. There's no sitting down to eat.
Yeah,
there's getting your food and putting your tray away. That's the thing.
So
you're just the highest calorie stuff you can get. Eat it while they're putting it on your plate. You get a spoon. That's it. One utensil. No napkins, no nothing, just one utensil. And you're just eating it as fast as you can, because once you get through the line, you put your tray away.
And so you're sitting down for it.
There is no sitting down. They ain't cleaning those tables. That's not happening. And so you're always at caloric deficit. You're always at sleep deprivation the whole time. You're carrying heavy gear, and there's just massive stress. And so I remember I was my patrol in the Darby phase, which was the first phase, failed miserably. It was just cold that night and foggy and trying to find the objective. And our NVGs are these old 7 alphas. They're the old school stuff, and they just didn't work well. And I didn't get a good handover because they changed leadership throughout from the guy that did the planning. Then I took over as a squad leader for the movement and actions on the objective. It was just a miserable patrol, and I failed miserably. But at the time, you could be 50-50, like 50% fail. And if you were 50-50,
right.
You could go ahead. Well, I didn't get another patrol. They didn't have enough time or whatever. And so I was 50-50. Like I had not had two no-goes.
Right.
And so they let me go for it. So by the skin of my teeth, I get out of Darby.
Man.
So, but I'm like in the hurt locker, right? I need to get goes. And so I get to the desert phase of Ranger School, which is gone now, but I get to the desert phase. It's out in a place, McGregor Base Camp, out in Dugway, or McGregor Base Camp out in White Sands Missile Range near Fort Bliss, Texas. And get out there and we start the desert phase, and it's some training, and then you go out on this 18-day FTX again. There's no sleep, no nothing. You know, I remember just hallucinating horribly because now you're the time that the toll is starting to take. The longer you do things, the worse it gets.
Right.
And I remember my first patrol, I get a go, and I'm thinking, okay, now I'm blade running. I got a no-go and a go, so I'm 50-50. And for some reason, I get it, like at the end of the thing, I get another patrol, and I get a no-go on it. And I'm just like, oh, my God, now I'm two no-goes and a go. I'm under 50%. And sure enough, I'm recycling desert. So if you don't know what recycling means, is you get an extra long stay at Ranger School, which is like the worst place on earth to ever be. And I just remember it was the closest I ever came to quitting and wanting to quit. And really? I remember we got to make a phone call to tell people that, hey, we're going to be here I'm going to be here a little longer. Don't expect me to come out. Right. If you were buying plane tickets to my graduation at this time, I'm not going to be at that graduation.
Right.
And all my friends and people that I went to ILBC. So there's a lot of West Pointer guys because we all started ILBC. Yeah. We all went in this together. So those were my friends, and everybody went forward. It was actually a blessing for me.
Okay.
Because platoon operations was done in the desert, and I was getting ready to be a platoon leader. I was getting ready to be an infantry platoon leader. So I got 3 times to learn platoon tactics at really a high level at Ranger School by Ranger instructors. And so the first time I failed out, but you go through recycle training, which is like a whole nother phase of Ranger School where they take you out there and you got to do all the drills and go through an FTX.
But it's like training for training.
It's training. Yeah. They're learning. And the one thing that is, it's not the sleep deprivation and the food deprivation. So you get a little bit of a reset thing that you weren't going to get.
True.
So you get a little bit of an advantage because they're not keeping you at food deficit and sleep deprivation. You're still just doing all kinds, scrubbing toilets and anything else.
You're getting your butt kicked during the day, but you're just sleeping at night.
But you're getting some sleep and you're getting some food, which was key to get through the rest of Ranger School for me. And another thing that happened, which would really leave an indelible mark on me. So we're getting rigged up because we're jumping back into Benning. So we jump into the desert and you jump out of the desert, airborne ops. So we're getting all rigged up, and the Rangers. So this is after I passed desert phase. The second time I barely passed, 1 and 1. You know, I get 1 go. So now I'm blade running again. I'm 2 and 2 because all this stuff follows you.
Right. And
they call it blade running because I've got 2 no goes and 2 goes. So thank God I'm finally going for it. I'm out of here.
You're skating this line. Yeah.
And we're rigging up to get out of the desert. And all of a sudden the Ranger instructors come out and they're like, "Get out of your stuff, de-rig." And I'm like, what the heck?
To you specifically?
To everybody.
Or to everybody?
No, the whole class. We're all standing there in parachutes and combat equipped. We're combat equipped. We've been JMPI'd with Jump Master Primary Inspection. So we are ready to get on the aircraft and the next thing, hook up and jump out once we get to where we're going.
Right.
And they're telling us to de-rig all of our equipment, which is like odd. I don't know if the aircraft broke or what happened.
Right.
And so we de-rig all that stuff, and then they're like, okay, go into your team rooms. And I'm just like, what the heck?
What
I'm
have we done,
I need to get out of here.
Yeah.
I've been here forever. We go in there and they say there's been an accident in the desert, in Florida, that has involved some fatalities with Ranger students.
Oh, wow.
So what had happened in Florida, which I would really come to realize a little later, but we lost 4 Ranger students from my class. So
the one that you got cycled out of?
So it's the class that I was in. They would go forward to the mountain phase while I'm in recycle training. Yeah. Then they go to Florida while I'm doing desert phase again. And that's and during that Florida trip, so two of my good friends, Dave Sansucci and Spencer Dodge, both died.
Wow.
Dodge was in my platoon at ILBC. And so there's guys I know well. We'd been to concerts together. You know, this is the crew I hung out with in ILBC. Got killed at Ranger School. Another captain died there, and then a staff sergeant would die as well from the Ranger Regiment.
What was it that?
It was a combination of hypothermia, and I'll get to this story when I was a Ranger instructor there, because we would really dive deep into that, and it's why I would become a Ranger instructor, actually.
Oh wow! You know, it motivated at that point.
Well, cool. It would just be chance, or I guess, or fate. Something would cause me to be a Ranger instructor in Florida.
That's cool.
Later in my career, but so we don't jump. I get through. You know, the mountain phase of Ranger School, again, I'm just blade running. So I get a go and a no-go there. So now I'm still just 50-50. And you're just, I'm probably 20 pounds lighter at this point, because I would end up losing, I think, 28 pounds total in Ranger School. And by the time I got to Florida, you know, you're a train wreck by the time you get there. Your mind is hardened. Your body is getting wrecked. By the time you get to Florida, there's nothing that will stop you. I mean, if they tell you to go, stand on your head in the swamps for the next 2 days, you're going to stand on your head in the swamps for the next 2 days. There's nothing they're going to do. March 100 miles. Let's go. I'm going to march till my boots fall off my feet. There's nothing they're going to tell you to do that you're not going to go do. It's just your mind is hardened at this point of, like, the goal has been set. So all the people that we're going to quit or we're going to fail out, we're going to do that.
They've all
first
been weeded out.
They're all. So now the only thing that's going to stop you is a technical thing, like failing patrols. And I would luckily get a good bay planning. It's the first time I got to be a platoon leader, do platoon leader stuff. He's usually being a squad leader or something like that. And I got to go right out of the gate in Florida, so I would be, set to be a Ranger. So as long as I don't kill myself or whatever, I'm going to be a Ranger when I get out of this thing. And so I'd graduate Ranger School, and really just, they pin that tab on you. It is monumental. You join like a brotherhood of people. And then I would get to my first assignment at the 101st and become a rifle platoon leader. There at the air assault unit. I go to air assault school there, link back up with Greg, my best friend. His military police unit would support, his platoon of military police were attached to my infantry brigade. So infantry brigade's around 4,500 to 5,000 troops. Each one of them have a military police platoon attached to it, and his was attached to ours. So we would go to training all over. I know we went to like the Joint Readiness Training Center down in Fort Polk, Louisiana, on a big deployment, and linked to his platoon was down there, and I was down there with infantry. So,
perfect.
We would just pal around. So we stayed close, and our whole goal was at the 4-year mark, we're getting out of the military and going to become state police officers back home. And that's exactly what he did. That's what he did.
At that 4-year mark.
It was 3.5, 3.25 years or something, but it's coming up, and he starts applying there, and he's like, hey, we're going to apply there and all these things. And I don't know what it was, but I just was really good at being an infantryman. I just loved it. And I was always good at it, and rose to, and got really good reports on my officer evaluation reports. I was always put in good positions. All my battalion commanders really had, the best to say about me. And I said, you know what? I think I'm going to see where this goes. And there was one time I had this company commander when I was end of my platoon leader time, going into be an executive officer, a company executive officer. And I had this company commander. My first company commander was amazing. Just a war fighter, just great. Harder than heck on me, just hard. I mean, was just hard on everybody. Just training you. And the next guy I had was just not good at all. And they called him Crash. I'm not going to say his name, but I liked him as a person. I would see him throughout my military career as a person, but I did not like serving under him at all. And he didn't
treat people well, or he just didn't do his job.
He was
best he should have been able to do it.
very unfocused, didn't have a vision of where to go and be able to prioritize. So when everything's a priority, nothing's a priority. And we were just like shifting all over the place all the time. And it was like trying to get headway because you have a person who just gets squirrel. It's just everything was, anybody would say, oh, we got to do that right now. But we're supposed to be doing this.
Prioritization is out the window.
Yeah. And it was just, and at the time, I'm his executive officer, so I'm getting a lot of backlash that doesn't get up to his level from the
you're
troops.
You're doing deflecting and filtering, and you're doing all this.
We got to do this. And so I thought, I can do better than that. Yeah. If I was ever a company commander, I could do better than that.
And it's not because you think that I'm so good. It's just I see what can be different. And I see how guys are being affected, and I want to help the guys. I want to help the team.
I had a company commander who I just. It was sir all the time. It was like, yes, sir, no, sir. It was like, and if you messed up, man, he brought the hammer down. It didn't matter how good you were. It was just like the hammer's coming down. Right. I remember I did a trench line attack, a live fire trench line attack, and I had messed up the breach and the assault force didn't go. Man, he just hammered me.
Really?
Yes. In front of my troops and everything, and just like all the things that went wrong. But it made me tougher. Those are the kind of things, those kind of hammerings like really solidify. Like when you've done bad and not so good and you get hammered, it's like, hey, that was just on me. It's on me. And it's somebody you want to perform for. And then I had this other guy, which was like, goodness gracious. Like I'm barely holding the wheels on this thing because we don't have a vision. I thought, I want to be a company commander because I think I can do like my first guy. I think I can provide guys with good leadership that they respect and do well at it. And so I said, I'm going to keep going on this thing as far as I can go. So I would go to IOAC, Infantry Officer Advanced Course, back to Fort Benning, home of the infantry, back to Fort Benning. And I would go through the captains, where they train, Army lieutenants to be captains. So most people arrive there as captains, very young captains. I arrived there as a first lieutenant. So I was a first lieutenant, and I'd go through the whole course. They send you there, so you live there. So we pack up everything from Fort Campbell, move down to Fort Benning for 1 year. You're going to stay 1 year in this school, and get our house to stay. But I'm like one of the very few first lieutenants all the way through the course. I didn't get promoted till the course ended. And the course ended, there was a big ceremony. I think like 5 or 6 of us in the course that had been first lieutenants all got promoted.
Oh, that's pretty good.
At the end of the course. So all my peers all outranked me. They were all captains, and I was a lowly first lieutenant.
So when you're smoking and joking and having a good time out there, did you always have to say sir?
Not usually.
You kind of drop down to a
kind of drop down to a peer thing because we're all going to school together. Now, your instructors are captains. These are senior captains now. These are captains who have already been company commanders. So they're where we're 4 years into our career, they're at the 8 and 9 year mark. Oh, okay. So they have double the amount of time. They're still a captain. So captain's like one of the longest ranks you'll hold. So captain who just transitioned out of his, 1 bar to the 2 bars.
Right.
And then captains who have been, through company command, through a secondary phase, maybe probably on battalion and brigade staffs, and now they're instructors back at the schoolhouse. And so you definitely call them sir. There's a big difference between those captains and these captains.
Because they're carrying a little more baggage.
Yes, they're carrying a whole ton of weight as instructors.
Now, I'm going to pause you. You mentioned that you went to the 101st.
Yeah.
Right? Fun fact. My dad, you said your dad was in Vietnam.
Yep.
And he did all this stuff in Vietnam. My dad was in Vietnam. He was in the 101st Screaming Eagles.
Okay.
So he flew helicopters in Vietnam.
Okay.
In the 101st.
Yeah.
So just fun fact for you there.
Yeah, that
connect some stuff.
That's cool. And I'll connect a little bit about my dad later when we get to Iraq. But I would go to IOAC, get through the school. I do really well too at the school. I was actually like a student mentor at the school. So I was doing well on all these things. So people that captains and lieutenants that were struggling in the course, I would do tutoring with, like, hey, this guy is not going to pass this op order phase. And so they would attach guys like me to guys that were struggling to figure it out and to help them write their orders and help them get through different things tactically or whatever. And it was a combination, because I remember one of the guys I helped, his first name was Angel, just a great guy and just a heck of a war fighter later in our careers. was just struggling just because, just verbiage and the way it's put together. Some people, it just takes more experience. And if you didn't get a lot of that experience as a lieutenant, then it was going to be harder as you got to a captain. And some people are in specialty platoons and don't do a lot. Right. I was just in a line infantry platoon, so I was writing orders and delivering op orders every day.
From the get-go,
from the get-go. So I got a lot of time, focused on that there at the 101st.
That's cool.
And so I get to Benning, and I go through IOAC, and there, at the time, we were in a position in the Army that if you had been light infantry, start of your career, which I was, 101st is light infantry, you transitioned to mechanized infantry.
Okay.
It's called heavy to light, or light to heavy, heavy to light. So I was light needing to go heavy.
Sure.
And so on your wish list of coming out of where you want to go, they want you to stick to those parameters. Like if you had been light infantry, your first 3 choices coming out of here should be all mechanized infantry, heavy infantry. And if you would heavy infantry, it should be light infantry coming out of here. And so I did all the things, and I signed up for all the heavy things that I didn't want to do. I didn't want to go to any of those bases. I didn't want to be mechanized infantry at the time. I loved light infantry. I loved being on the ground with troops. And I did everything they said I was going to do. And the assignments all come out. That's like you're biting your nails. Like what assignments you're going to get. Where am I going to go? Where it's going to be. And it says TDA Fort Benning. And I was like, there was only one brigade at Fort Benning, and it was a heavy brigade. And I thought, okay, I guess that's the brigade, because I didn't know what TDA meant. I was like, what the heck is TDA? Well, TDA stands for Training and Doctrine. So I was going to be a training guy.
Oh, okay.
So they were taking me as a brand new captain. I wasn't going to go be a company commander. I wasn't going to go do the thing I was supposed to do.
Right.
I was going to be in training. And more than likely, I was going to go be a basic training XO or a basic training company commander. Okay. And I may not ever get a chance to command a real unit. Sometimes you don't get a chance if you are a basic training company commander.
Wow. Okay.
Which is a huge stigma to your career, right?
Sure,
You're not commanding troops.
Right.
And they put that in there, and I'm just like, how did this happen? Like, how did I get this? And so I pick up the phone book, because at the time there's still no internet. There's no real internet. And so I pick up the phone book, and I'm going through the units at Fort Benning. And I'm just thumbing through the phone book at the units and looking up all the units, because I'm not going to leave it to these guys who first wouldn't give me a command in a real unit. So I'm in training and doctrine.
Right.
And I'm going to figure out what units are here. And one of the units was the Ranger Training Brigade. So RTB. Ranger Training Brigade, and they're at Fort Benning. The headquarters is at Fort Benning, for Ranger School, right? Sure. And so next day, man, I call him up, talk to the XO, and I said, "Hey, sir, I just got I'm in the current IOAC class, Infantry Officer Advanced course, and I just got assigned TDA Fort Benning, and I was wondering, do you have any open slots? I'm currently Ranger qualified. I've got my Expert Infantryman's badge. That's another hard crucible you go through, and I'm air assault and airborne qualified, all the things you need to be to go to our Ranger Training Brigade." And he's like, I had just said that, and he said, "What phase would you like to be an instructor at?" I'm like, no kidding. And I'm like, no kidding.
I was just hoping to
I was just
in.
like trying to figure out if you might have an opportunity to come talk to me, or maybe I can apply, or you can come see it, or I can call you again. PT test. You can see if I'm any good or not. He's like, "What camp do you want to be an instructor at?" And I was like, I guess mountains. I'd been up in mountains. It was Dahlonega, Georgia, beautiful up in the Smoky Mountains. It's a beautiful place. And I said, the mountains. And so he's like, "Sure, you got it." And I go home that night, and I tell my wife, "Mountains," and she's like, "Well, where else could we go? Could we go down to Florida?" He's like, "Well, I don't know." And I didn't really want to call him back, because I thought I was just so fortunate it would go away or something.
Right.
And my wife said, God, we can go to Florida and live on the coast. And it was Eglin Air Force Base down in like Fort Walton Beach, Destin area, Florida. Beautiful area.
Oh, yeah.
Florida.
I've heard of Destin is like one of the top 10
it's the
places.
swamp phase of Ranger School. It's the last phase. And so I'm in class, and the XO calls my house. You still have house phones. We don't have a cell phone at the time. She calls my house to kind of get some information from me and this and that. And my wife asks him, is there any chance we can go to Florida? And this is my wife. Is there any chance you could go to Florida? And he's like, you can go to Florida, but you have to okay it through your husband first. He's the guy that told me.
No, you don't seem to understand. I'm in charge of this guy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I remember I came home for lunch or something, and my wife says, I spoke to the XO out there, and he said we could go to Florida, so all you have to do is call him, and we can go to Florida. And to me, it was, I didn't really care that often, but I'm like, oh, God, you talked to him? Because this guy's a major, I think, major or lieutenant colonel. No, he's a lieutenant colonel. And I'm not even promoted to captain yet. That doesn't happen for a couple weeks. I'm not ready to. I'm just a first lieutenant. I'm really pushing the envelope. But I said, okay, no. I call him back. I said, she wants to go to Florida. Let's go to Florida. And so Providence brings me to become a Ranger instructor. And the reason I became a Ranger instructor was the reason he answered the phone and said, what camp do you want to go to? Because the GAO, Government Accounting Office, had just conducted inspections of the camps and found that from the accident where those Ranger students got killed when I was in Ranger school, they had not fulfilled some of the requirements that they had put in place, the recommendations. One of the recommendations that every platoon training team, these are the teams that train Rangers, would have a captain in charge of it. And so down in Florida, they only had I think 1 or 2 of these things out of 9 or 10 spots.
Wow.
And so
they were hurting for people.
Oh, and they were under the gun. They were under congressional gun. The GAO from Congress came down and said, hey, you're a failure. And you're failing to do this, and so we're going to keep oversight, just the screws on you. And so I can later guess how that translated to the brigade commander, to his executive officer saying, find me some captains. And
so when one calls me and says, hey, can I? It was like instantaneously. So that's, of course.
So now I've got them coming to me. And so, so a bunch of my classmates would become Ranger instructors. I think I went down there with three captains out of my class went to Florida. And so we didn't get the 2 in each company, but we got 1 for each company. And later we'd end up, by the time I would end my Ranger, being a Ranger instructor, we'd be full up with those positions being filled, at Ranger school. But I would go down to Florida to be a Ranger instructor by chance, by what happened as a young lieutenant going through Ranger school with that. And I would become a platoon training team OIC. And again, another fortunate thing for me really in my career was that at Florida was the only place that officers were actual Ranger instructors, because it was where platoon training happened. And there was a position for platoon leaders to be evaluated. None of the other places, it was all team leaders and squad leaders, and because it was section operations up in mountains. And so when Ranger School was going through, it was platoon operations were happening down in Florida. And so you had a platoon leader position, hence a captain evaluating that platoon leader. So you had these, so now that was the only place where these officers were Ranger instructors. Everywhere else, it was senior non-commissioned officers, staff sergeants, were all the Ranger. That's where were all Ranger instructors, and the officers held administrative type positions. So they would hold administrative.
So they weren't on the ground. They weren't
actually training students.
And so in Florida, you got to actually train.
I got to actually be a real Ranger, like a Ranger instructor. So I was just like everybody else. I was a Ranger instructor,
yelling and going through the mud and doing everything else and
training lieutenants. And so getting me ready to be a company commander where you train lieutenants and you have, so I, for 2 years, spent in the swamps training lieutenants in the harshest conditions to get through horrible adversity, and complete the mission when everything else is failing and you haven't slept and everybody's falling asleep on you and droning and hallucinating on you, trying to put quarters in trees and that they think they're a dang, vending machine. You got all this problems happening. So for 2 years, I was an instructor down there. And one of the things I did as an instructor, every year we would rewalk the route that happened when those Rangers got killed. And we would go through the investigative report, and there were all these key decision points in there, and we would basically do a reenactment of it. Like, what decision did they make there? What safety implementation did we put in?
Right.
When, what did we do? Because we implemented all these different safety things prior to going back into the swamps again. And so that was just a relook, and we would bring congressional reps and all those types of things, put them on our boats and everything. And I ran that. And so me and my unit ran that. So, went to where 2 of my friends got killed. And so it was really meaningful for me to kind of redo that and figure out really what happened. Cause until I was a Ranger instructor, I really didn't know. It wasn't until I was a Ranger instructor where part of becoming an instructor is you got to read that accident report. Right. You got to read that accident report. You got to do a little report on that. And then they did this train walk with that. And I volunteered. I said, I want to do that. 2 of my good friends got killed out there, and I want to really figure out what happened and why. And so I got to really dig into that accident and how it happened. And it was like everything that possibly could go wrong went wrong. There was flooding up in Alabama, so north of them, not really where they were at. There was flooding. At the time, you didn't have to get off at designated drop points. You could just get off in the swamp wherever you wanted and then start heading. And they unfortunately got off in a place called Crane Lake, which is a dried lake most of the time, unless there's flooding.
Which there was.
Yeah, which there was flooding. And so they got off in a lake. And at the time they got off, the water was within parameters to go. It was above 55 degrees, and it was not waist deep. Right. Well, that would just slowly change over the course of a few hours, and pretty soon the water was over their heads. It gotten a lot colder, and even at 55 degrees, you can only spend so much time in the water, and they just could not get out of the water. Right. And it became just a mass. Fog came in, so they couldn't helicopter them out, and just kept getting colder and colder. You have to cross a stream that's in the middle of that lake, so there's now a stream. So there's current, and there's current, pole, and there's and you had hundreds of Rangers. You had probably about 100 Ranger students out there, and you're in the middle of a lake. Jeez. And high ground's a hell of a long ways away. And they had one of the guys was going down, so he was in cardiac arrest, and they were trying to keep him alive through chest compressions in water over their head. So it took a lot of Ranger instructors to hold him to do the stuff. They had abandoned all their weapons. They had abandoned all their gear. And the Ranger instructors had given them an azimuth. They had called out all the other Ranger instructors from the whole camp to build fires to so people could see them. Yeah, and it was just the squads just took off to try to get to high ground. They pointed them in the right direction because the Ranger instructors were dealing with people that were massively hypothermic, and the Ranger instructors started to kind of go down as well. They had been exposed to the elements, but nothing like the students who were sleep deprived, food deprived, all that. And so they had people that were dying on them in the swamps that were taking and so they could, if you could walk, you were just pointed towards high ground. And one of my friends died at the rope bridge, failed to hook up onto the rope bridge, and failed to take his rucksack off. So when he got on there, he couldn't hold on with just his hands, and his safety line didn't get clipped in. And so they lost him, and he was gone. Jeez. And couldn't get him. And the other guy was going towards high ground, and he was really starting to go down really bad. He's a small guy. He's probably only 150 pounds or 145 pounds, skinny. So I'm just guessing what Ranger School did to him. Probably he was at the edge, and they were helping him. And one of the guys said, I just passed him back to the next guy. Well, I don't think there was a next guy. Oh, and so he thought he was passing him back to the next guy to help him. Yeah. Like, hey, I can't go any farther. And he sat down on a log. I think it was 40 meters from high ground. 40 meters from high ground. Sat down on a log, and that's where they found him the next day. Jeez. And then one of the guys died while they were trying to evacuate a guy on a helicopter. He was good 1 second and bad the next second. And then the guy they were doing the chest compressions didn't make it either. So all of these things as a Ranger instructor, find out that we'd put divers in the water all the time, that we would have designated landing sites, that at the landing site, you would check water temperature, depth. They would check weather conditions all over the state, to see if anything was happening externally. And one of the big things is nobody could influence the Ranger instructor's decision, because at the time there was pressure being put on the instructors to get their people in the water, to not make it easy on them. Go in the water, not make it easy. And so some instructors were like, man, this is sketchy. I don't think. And one of the instructors in one of the companies did not get in the water that day.
Really?
So one of them went down to a dry land. He said, we're not getting in the water. That's too deep and it's too cold.
Yeah.
And so he just said, I'm not. And they were pressuring, other leaders were pressuring them to get in the water. And so they said, the only people making the decision is a Ranger instructor that's leading the thing and the base camp, which is also Ranger instructors who run that day of training.
Right.
And they'll make a mutual decision, and it will not be influenced by anyone else, not the battalion commander, but no one else.
Yeah, it's the guys that are seeing what's happening right now. Yeah.
And don't be around them. Don't get on the radio.
Awesome.
Don't do anything like that.
Yeah.
And so when we put divers in the water, we, left the boats. Like one of the things is they took the boats away. So even if they were in trouble, they couldn't come back because there's no boats to come back to.
Right.
So you leave the boats there until you get to high ground, and implemented, I think it was like 20 some different changes to Ranger School to make it safer.
That's good. I mean, that's
And so I was part of that, seeing that and practicing that, and really risk mitigation at the ground level. And it really helped me cope with, what I didn't know about my buddies that got killed there.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Like I could see it was some closure.
And so now you're preparing that for the next guys that are coming through. This is not going to happen. We're going to honor the guys that fell.
Yeah.
By making sure it's safe for everybody else to be able to get trained up. Because that's ultimately what you're hoping to do is get these trained, get these guys this. So it's not just a tab. There's more to it. There's this ability now that you have that you can go out and you can go get missions accomplished overseas or wherever you guys are going. And that is the ultimate goal, as opposed to just getting it. I mean, just having some kind of clout, which is...
And I know one of the things that it still sticks with me today, I use it in my training today, is that as a young captain, so, I'm a brand new captain. I'm at 4 through 6 years at this, as being a Ranger instructor. As I really looked at Ranger School, I'm looking at these people come through, and every mission there is a catastrophe. Like, you can't get people that haven't slept in days or months and haven't eaten or anything, think they're going to be like special ops out here. It's not going to happen. They're barely going to accomplish the mission, and it's going to be ugly. It just is. And I really started to understand it's not that we're trying to get them to perform this mission well. Mm-hmm. What we're trying to do is, when all adversity happens, what do leaders do to make things work again, to get out of these horrible situations? What do leaders do to keep moving towards the objective, to keep trying to pull success from failure? That's what it is, because these missions are bound for failure. We've set them up for failure from the get-go. Like, let's keep them up as long as we can. We're never going to feed them. Let's march them with heavy equipment all over the place. Let's change out the leaders so they're confused. The guy that made the plan isn't the guy executing the plan, and all these types of things. So how do you get people to try to really wrestle success from failure? Mm-hmm. And that's what we had. That's what I really learned what you're trying to do. You're looking for those people that keep going when everything is going against them, that keep going. And that is what we're looking for in a Ranger. And it wasn't the people that, we're not looking for success here. And it's like we've set you up for failure. We want the people that keep trying to reach for success out of that keep going, that keep trying to make something happen. That's what we're looking for. And I really didn't understand that as a student at all. Uh-huh. And, but as an instructor, and my role in that was to try to instill that in them. It wasn't to be this gatekeeper like this tab protector. Like, I'm the gatekeeper. You got to get through me to get that. No, I'm an instructor. It's in my job title. I'm supposed to instruct them on how to be successful. Yeah. And I think a lot of people a lot of instructors didn't get that. I had to, and my company commander would link me up with our worst success rate instructors. Sure. Because he wanted better success. He's like, you figured this out. You're going to walk with the the guys that give out the least amount of goes.
Right.
And I would just tell them, I was like, the reflection of your go and no-go rate is not on the students you get, but it's a reflection on how good of an instructor you are.
Right.
So at a 26% go rate, let's say, then you're a poor instructor, and I'm going to treat you as such.
Sure.
I'm going to be on your neck constantly.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what are you doing? What are you doing? And because they always say, why are you micromanaging me? Well, because you don't know how to train Rangers. Because you have a 26% go rate.
Right.
I mean, so obviously you don't know how to train Rangers, or you'd be better at it.
That's once again, I'll go back to Leadership 101. That if you have students that are failing, why are they failing? Are they stupid? They're not stupid. They're
class
humans.
after class after class.
Correct.
It's like, it's just no one's good enough.
And they're
obviously
pulled from the same pool as the people that are passing.
Yeah, exactly.
And so obviously they're not getting information that they need to have, or you're not giving them the information. If you say, well, they're not learning it, maybe you got to change your teaching style so that they understand.
Or you're looking for the wrong things.
Correct.
You're looking for all the wrong things. I found that, like, you're looking for the wrong things. You're looking for this mission to be good. Well, I'll just tell you right now, it's not going to be good. I mean, you wouldn't do this in the regular Army. You wouldn't set a mission up like this ever.
Right.
Never.
Right.
You would never set people up for this amount of failure and then expect, perfection.
Yeah.
And so a lot of it was just trying to change people's mindsets on, what it meant to be an instructor and what success looked like as an instructor.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, I wasn't there to give anything away, and I was there to see in people what they maybe didn't see in themselves.
Right.
And just because a mission was failing didn't mean that guy was not what we were looking for.
Mm-hmm.
What were they doing? And some people that got goes, the mission was a catastrophic failure. Like they didn't even get to the objective.
Right.
And they set up the wrong way, and the enemy killed, the enemy was more successful, and all these things would happen to him. But this leader just kept trying to dig himself out, kept doing things to try to, change the outcome of the battlefield.
Right.
And I said, that's what we're looking for.
Because you're looking at the human factor, that the thing that's going to keep moving.
Yeah.
Because the parameters of whatever mission, they'll change all the time. And like you mentioned before, things are outside of your control.
That's right.
It's something you can't even do. Maybe they have more men, or they have more people bust in that intel didn't tell you, and all of a sudden you're like, holy cow, we're dealing with 200 now.
Or you find that you're at the wrong side of the objective, and you have a hit time.
Right.
Well, guess what? You got to do something. And
because the human factor, that's your biggest asset, as much as your biggest.
And is somebody trying to, the fundamentals of leadership, build influence and trust? Are they trying to influence the people around them? Are they trying to trust them that they can be successful?
Right.
That's what you're looking for. I mean, Ranger School is just kind of really the ultimate leader crucible, because really those people that get that tab are going to lead soldiers out there, and that tab is going to demonstrate to everyone around them that they have been through that crucible, and they lead, and they have been through hell and back,
right,
and can lead.
Right. Right. So you stay here for a little while. Well, you said 2 years.
Yeah, 2 years, and then I'd go be a company commander. So I went up to Alaska. My brother-in-law, so my wife's sister, her husband's in the Air National Guard. He's a HH-60 rescue helicopter pilot up in Alaska. They tell us how great Alaska is and all that stuff. Well, there's an airborne battalion up in Alaska, and so and I kind of get a little bit of a choice of assignment coming out of this specialty unit. And so I say, I want to go to Alaska. I want to go to the airborne unit up in Alaska.
So now your wife has somebody else, because she's your sister.
Yes, her sister's up there. We have, by that time, I now have 3 kids. So I got my oldest daughter, who we had in college. We had our son at Fort Campbell, and down in Florida we have our daughter, our youngest daughter. So we go up there. They got 3. My brother and sister-in-law have an older boy, and they had just had triplet boys that are as old as our youngest. So yeah, families are back together, and I'm in the 501st Parachute Infantry Regiment. Initially, I get up there, and I'm supposed to go right into company command, because I've already spent 2 years in that, but I'm not jump master qualified, so I can't go into company command. And I would eventually become jump master qualified. I'd take over a company there. The Twin Towers would get hit. That would be life changing up there. And
what was it about that was so I mean, obviously it's so far away, but did that change everybody's, even on bases?
No, it changed everything. I mean, we deployed out into Alaska to guard the pipeline, Port of Valdez, all these targets that they thought were going to get hit. I mean, we sent a company up to one of the pump stations on the Alaska pipeline, the Port of Valdez. My company went down to the Port of Valdez just to a piece of federal ground down there. And just were sitting down there. Really, when we weren't doing anything, we didn't have any authority really, and
you didn't really have any solid intel that
no, we didn't
coming,
have anything.
But we had no idea.
Anything happened. They locked we put concertina wire up around our battalion headquarters,
right?
And we didn't know what was really going on. I mean, initially we thought that there were planes coming our way and stuff like that.
Sure.
And, so we didn't know what was happening, but it would change. Kind of the course of, the war would break out in Afghanistan after that.
And I'm assuming you, either you wanted to or not, you got to go to Afghanistan, correct?
Yeah. And so I wouldn't go then. So I would give up my company command, and it would be taken by another guy, and he would take my company to Afghanistan. So all my troops all went to Afghanistan. So now I missed my opportunity. So then I would go, I was an ACRC instructor back here in Southern Oregon. So training National Guardsmen to go to war in Iraq. So I got to spend 2.5 years watching National Guardsmen go to, war. And here I still have not been. So I'm just training. It's like being on a team and practicing year after year after year and never getting to go to a game. It's hard to say, like, why do you want to go to war? Why do you want to? Well, I've been in the Army for a long time now.
Professional soldier.
Yeah. And that's what you're supposed to do. And when there's a war, you're supposed to go do it.
Right.
And I would spend my tour here as a ACRC, active component, reserve component. I was a advisor to the Oregon National Guard for the 186 Infantry out of Ashland. And that's also where I'd link up with Greg again. And we'd start talking about our later business we'd talk about. But then from there, I would go to the Command and General Staff College. At the Command and General Staff College, that's where they train you to be a higher level officer. So transitioning from captain to major now. And I was a major, and they were setting up a program in Iraq to try to help the Iraqi army make better gains. So they had this thing called MIT teams, military transition teams. And at the time, they ran by all National Guard soldiers, and they just weren't making progress for whatever reason. No fault of anybody, but just weren't making progress. And the teams weren't very cohesive and those type of thing. And so General Petraeus at the time said, we're going to put all active duty soldiers on these MIT teams to help the Iraqi army take control of the country and train them and take control of the country. And so in my CGSC class, the team leaders for these MIT teams, which were 11-man teams, were majors. And so they were coming, so they came to our class, and a bunch of us were going to graduate early and take over these teams. I had not been to combat, so I volunteered. And I told my wife, it was hard, Iraq was not a safe place to go.
Right.
And I said, hey, I'm going to volunteer to go. I need to go. I have not been there, and I think I can help these small teams go. And so they put us in a special program at CGSC where we went to a language school to learn Arabic and started forming these teams. And so I became team leader for one of these MIT teams while I was going through CGSC. And then as the team started to fill up, you would get a copy of, like, this guy's going to be on your team and he's from Fort Bragg, and this guy from Fort Campbell, and this guy from wherever, Fort Huachuca, and all these different places. These teams would fill up, and we'd all meet at Fort Riley, Kansas. And I met my team for my first time. And so the team was 2 infantry guys, 3 logisticians, 3 logistics guys, 2 communications guys, 2 intel personnel, 2 artillerymen, and formed up the 11-man team. And we went through training at Fort Riley, Kansas, and through this academy where we did small unit tactics and all those type of things. And really, there was me as a major captain, and then I had a captain infantryman. We're the only infantry guys. That's it. Just the only infantry. Everybody else is not infantry. And we're going into a Iraqi infantry battalion to be combat advisors.
Right.
And so we are going to get ready to live, eat, sleep, and fight with the Iraqi army for a year. on their base and do all those things. And so we graduate from that. We get our gear, and off we go. We go to Kuwait first, do our onboarding in Kuwait, and where we do qualifications, and it's like a school you have to go through. Right. You go to a couple weeks in Kuwait to get acclimated. Then we go up to Camp Taji in Iraq. We go through another MIT team academy there, and then bam, we're down. And I would be in the town of Abu Ghraib. Some people have heard of the prison of Abu Ghraib, but you'd hear it's the town of Abu Ghraib, and which is a suburb to the west of Baghdad, so just on the outskirts of Baghdad. And I would be attached to 6th Battalion, 6th Brigade, 2nd Iraqi Division, I'm sorry, 2nd Battalion, 6th Brigade, 6th Iraqi Division, and 226, and I would be their embedded combat advisor. So it was about 1,000-man Iraqi battalion. We were on FOB Muthana. You haven't heard of that because it's an Iraqi forward operating base. It was near the green zone, so it was near to the green zone, so we could make a small combat patrol to get to resupplied and stuff. So Camp Liberty, some of these big FOBs that were over in Baghdad or right on the outskirts of Baghdad. So Camp Liberty was one of the big ones, and so we were near there on an Iraqi base, and we took over for our National Guard team, which was horribly struggling. Right. And then we would, so here's this major infantryman whose job is to help the Iraqi army take over their area of operation. There was 2 Iraqi battalions in all of Iraq that owned battle space, and our unit was one of them. Okay. So no other U.S. forces in ours, which was which was different than most places. So this spot in the outskirts of Baghdad, no U.S. force had no responsibility on it. So that Iraqi battalion, that was one of the first ones turned over, and they were going to do this throughout the country. There was another one up near Taji where an armor battalion had, and that was the whole goal: keep turning these areas of operation over to the Iraqi army until they're in total control. They're in total control,
and we can kind of back out.
We can leave these small teams there and to help advise them and help get them on their feet and all those type of things. And so our job was to make sure they were successful in this area of operation. We provided all the technical things, UAV support, unmanned aerial vehicles, Predator drones, and those type of things, artillery support, helicopter support, medical evacuation support. All that stuff had to come through us because they didn't own that in the Iraqi army at the time. Okay, yeah. So your MIT team was kind of your lifeline to if things went bad, and to get that out. And then I would see some of the worst fighting ever in Iraq there. Really? And just rough time. I mean, the 2 instances stand out in my mind is we got under sustained sniper fire. Sniper, huge threat there. That's when we started changing the Humvees and putting the ballistic glass on them and putting the covers over the top, because the sniper threat, Al-Qaeda was very hit and run. And so the sniper threat was huge, and we were basically delivering school supplies, doing this building coalitions, and so we were delivering school supplies to a school. The Iraqi army was doing it, and we were kind of in oversight of it because we were helping them get the school supplies and stuff, and trying to build relationships and those type of things. And man, we came under sniper fire. And the only thing that really saved us is the battalion commander. I'd kind of made myself invaluable to the battalion commander. We had set up some programs that we were invaluable to him. He emptied the base. Emptied the base to come get us. We were out there with just a platoon-size element. It was like 30 Iraqi, and then I had 9 of my men. 2 men had to stay back to man the radio and talk. So we don't even get out there with all 11. So we just have most of our guys out there and 2 of our trucks. And he emptied the base, which put enough pressure on the sniper to come off. Because, I mean, I'll tell you, I'd set up in the complete wrong direction because I didn't know where the sniper was, because when it's fired, the sound, you can't tell.
It's not like in the movies, it's coming from the west.
No. Yeah, I set up in 90 degrees the wrong direction down a wrong avenue, and how we found the sniper. So there's an IED out in the road. We called in EOD to come get it. We thought the sniper had left because it'd been a long time between shots. So we get up in formation. We bound across that road and we're in the clear, right?
Yeah.
We're good to go. So we're moving tactically kind of to the sides of our trucks. And I remember my operations officer, the other infantry guy, was kind of near the side wall. My interpreter was kind of on the sidewalk. I was near the vehicle. And shot rang out and hit my interpreter right in the chest.
Wow.
Boom, shot him right in the chest, and he just boom, goes back. And now, oh my gosh, now we're facing where the sniper shot, so we kind of get an idea of where he's at.
You reset.
And I just tell my gunner up front, I was like, clock direction, 12 o'clock, I think it's like 500 meters, engage. I don't even know if he saw it, but he starts engaging
just
that direction.
50 cal.
Yeah,
right?
He starts engaging. And we're in the middle of a city, which is hard,
Yeah, because families running around.
People on bicycles.
You're delivering school supplies. Yeah, so that means there's got to be kids
There's
somewhere.
people everywhere.
Yeah.
And so we crack off with this 50 cal in the general direction that I think the thing is happening. People are scattering all over the place. The one thing that saved us, we had just given ballistic plates to our interpreters maybe a week ago.
Really?
Maybe a week prior to this. We had but they were wearing a different color. They were wearing the old woodland. So they really stood out on the battlefield. They didn't kind of look like us. They didn't have the same camouflage patterns. And that sniper could have shot a U.S. captain, a U.S. major, or that interpreter. And he hated that interpreter more than those two Americans. And he shot him in the chest.
Do you think he knew that?
Oh, yeah. He knew that because they were wearing the interpreters were the ones
they stuck out
that were wearing army uniforms, but wearing this different body armor.
Right.
They were wearing the woodland body armor. We were in the digital gray pattern.
Is how dare you help our enemy sort of thing?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to kill that guy first.
You're first.
Now, I hate that guy worse than I hate those Americans.
Okay.
And I'll never forget that the decision to put them up in body armor was just. We'd have lost him. I got a picture. I got a picture with him.
It.
Oh yeah, I got a picture with him. He sat up like the Walking Dead. He sits up. He goes over to the EOD truck, opens the door, jumps over the guy in the back seat, and just dives in the EOD truck. And it's like I didn't even know. I thought he was dead. I thought for sure.
Wow.
The way he got hit and went down, I was like done. I didn't even look back. I was like, he's done. And
yeah, because you have to focus
kill
on the
threat first, and then we'll police up the guys that have been hit, or someone else is going to get shot.
Right.
So get rid of the threat first, and then we'll figure out what's wrong with John. But I thought the way he got hit like that, he went down so fast and hard that I thought
his
it was
wind
critical.
Was easily knocked out of him, and
and so I've
trauma,
got,
I'm sure.
Yeah, I've got this picture with him and his plate, and he got hit about an inch down on the top of that plate by. The SVD sniper rifle, we think. 'Cause we saw the sniper. He was shooting off a top of a car over a canal, right? They're going to keep a terrain feature, which is a canal. We can't get across the canal.
Right.
And through cattails, these big cattails coming up. And so he had this windows that he was shooting. So I thought he was on the roof or window or something. No,
but it was more straight.
Yeah. And once he started to kind of get boxed in from the battalion that had come out of the Ford operating base, he said it's time to go, and he took one last shot and then was getting out. And then we didn't get him, which is just
that's the even more so where you sit there and kick yourself. And
then later in the deployment, one of the things that would happen to us is that war becomes kind of just war. It becomes numb to it. You become very numb to it. There are two instances where I really thought, like, I have to check myself. Like, what's going on? I really got to check myself. What's happening here in Iraq? And in our team room, so we live on a little tiny base inside of this other base because U.S. forces had force protection requirements. So we had to have T-walls. If we were going to sleep there, we had to have T-walls. We had to have sandbags. We had to have these requirements. And so we have this little team room where it's kind of just and we have these little rooms that we sleep in, 2 to a room. But this team room is where all our gear's at. So you have a little desk there, like these old metal school desks or stuff, and desk there. It's got the drawers in it, and your gears behind you, your weapons behind you. There's no arms room. There's none of that. It's everything's just sitting there, so you can put it on at a moment's notice. Our vehicles are right out the door, and we could be on the road going to the next mission whenever something happened. Because the Iraqi forces have people out all over the place, and so they would come and get in contact, and we'd have to go out and leave base and reinforce them, because we own the artillery and the and attack helicopters and close air support and all that kind of stuff. And so, this is happening every night and every day. But I remember something happened out there. We had to get ready to go. And I was like, okay, I got to get my grenades. And I pull open my drawer, and 3 live grenades just roll back in the drawer like they're like pencils. And I was thinking, those are grenades. And they're just rolling around in my drawer. And I was just thinking, that's not right. That would not happen anywhere else on Earth. You'd have 3 live grenades. Now, we've got the tape on them. We've got all the stuff on them to hold them securely and all that.
But they're just
rolling around like pencils in my drawer. And I'm thinking, something's going to happen if you don't. You got to really check some of this stuff. And so I remember we went through this whole thing about like, hey, we're going to store our stuff like this. These things, like we had AT-4s just sitting around, like AT-4 rocket launchers just sitting around in the team room, because we didn't have a lot of places to put them and those type of, but I was thinking, this is not how you do things. You get a little complacent to it. And like IEDs would become, it's an IED, it's a fine. Katyusha rocket that didn't explode, no big deal. It's like anywhere else on Earth, I'd be like, oh my God, get away from it, call EOD.
Every clear
run
out.
For your lives.
I want 500 foot of clearance. I want, Yeah,
all this stuff. But, there, it's just daily occurrences, Katyusha rockets hit. Oh, it didn't explode. Oh, go grab it and go.
You hear something off in the distance.
Go grab it and put it in the bunker. Go grab it and put it in the bunker. I think I might have said that once. And I remember we're out on a mission, and we're in like the worst part of the place called Alban Towers, and it means white towers. It's but they're towers, and where Abu Ghraib is a support area for Al Qaeda. That we're fighting. So it's where their families live. It's where their kids are going to school. It's where all their relatives live, and they don't like to fight there. They don't like to fight there, but they will fight. They don't like to, and so that's why we're getting sniper fire. We're not doing big. They're not doing big attacks. Every once in a while, something horrific will happen, and they'll go off on us. And
it's little heel bites. Most of those.
little sporadic engagements, and then something like, I'm going to show these guys a lesson or something. If I can get a few of them together, we're going to try to really take it to them. And we're in Alban Towers, and we're erecting these fighting positions, which are these big towers. They're like 2-story fighting position towers to where we can overwatch people putting in IEDs, because that's what they do. They put in IEDs on every entrance point, so they could by foot get back in there, but you couldn't get in there with vehicles. And you just get blown to pieces. And so we're doing that, and some kid brings over an IED. It's just this big pipe bomb. Not most IEDs were like 155 or Russian military ordnance that had HME put homemade explosive put in it. But this big giant pipe bomb, and we were just like, set it over there. We'll get EOD to take care of it. EOD shows up. They start taking care of it, and I'm over with the battalion commander trying to sort things out, like where we're putting this next tower and those type of things. And sure enough, the back of the EOD vehicle just explodes out the back of the EOD vehicle. And I'm just like, I remember I grabbed my radio, my XO's down there, and I'm just like, tell me that wasn't the EOD vehicle. He's like, it's the EOD vehicle. And we just ran down to the EOD vehicle, and our EOD tech was a female staff sergeant, and she had both of her arms blown off. And so she had dismantled the HME and things, and I don't know, she was carrying the container, the pipe, and I think the HME at the time, or maybe the HME was up in the truck, but she tripped, and that pipe hit the HME that she was holding in both of her arms, and that force went through both arms and blew both of her arms off. And I just remember, we got to get her out of there. We have a medic. They come with medics from the unit they're attached to, and I remember he's just flipping out. He's a specialist. He's a young medic. I'm like, I'm holding one of her arms. I'm holding one like with a tourniquet. Because I'm waiting for him to bring the tourniquet out, and I'm just like, come on, calm down. Get this out.
He's got to focus because
and I'm just like, I remember holding it and I'm like, I have a staff sergeant medic on our team and I'm like, get Doc. And I remember he's driving over 80 miles an hour through a soccer field.
Yeah.
And I remember him getting out of the car and he's taking his gear out and putting stuff in his mouth and things out. He gets over there. He gets both tourniquets on her, shoots her with morphine, starts an IV in her foot. And before I really figure out like what's going on, and the next thing I'm like, set up an HLZ. And my guys just start setting up HLZs. One of my guys was already calling the 9 line right when the explosion happened. And we get her out of there in 18 minutes. Wow. 18 minutes, she's on her way back to the green zone and is treated and lives. And they actually teach that 9-line medevac scenario at the EOD school now. One of my buddies that was on my team went up in the, he became an EOD officer and went up through the ranks of EOD, and they actually teach that specific one because 18 minutes, catastrophic injury, save her life. I actually linked up with her at I didn't link up with her, but sent her some messages when she was attending the Wounded Warrior conference and banquet back there. And but just 2 times there that would just really impact me critically as a leader.
Yeah. Because are you looking at it like, had I done something differently, or had I...
What did I not put in place? Were we getting complacent? The grenades in the drawer, the AT-4s around, it just became so normal. Katyusha rockets on the ground, and then IED, just set it over there. We'll get someone to take care of it.
Right.
And had we all become complacent in that, and I remember after that, I'm like, I'm going to lose one of my guys if we do not really start tightening up what we do. Right. I know it's war and we're doing it every day, but if you get complacent, you will lose. You will lose, and it will cost you everything. And I was bound and determined for that not to happen. And I would come home. I'd come home months later with my whole team intact, and not every MIT team was like that. And all of my guys came back, and I would go from there up to Alaska, where I was going to be an operations officer. And lo and behold, I get up there, and we're on a pilot 12-month reset, and we're going to go to Afghanistan. And I'm like, yay. I just got out of this.
I was going to tell my wife.
So I got back in the end of January 2008. By February 2009, I'd be in Afghanistan. I actually went there earlier because I went there in December of 2008 on the site survey. So I'd spend a month in Afghanistan before our unit got to Afghanistan, prepping with the unit that was there to take over and finding out where the AO is. Where do we need to bring our stuff into? I was the operations officer. I had to plan the operation to take over for the current unit that was in our place. And the current unit had just got to that area of operation. It used to be, the Polish unit had it there. And then this unit from the 101st, the Rakasans, had just came in there, but they had only been there for maybe 3 months. So they really couldn't tell us a lot. The Poles had been there for years, for like 3 years, and they couldn't tell us a lot. And so I was like, okay, well, I guess we're just coming in a little blind. Like, they hadn't done a lot of operations. It's the wintertime. Right. So then I was in there December, and so they hadn't done a lot of operations. They hadn't seen a fighting season there. So they didn't know exactly what was happening. So we came into Paktika province when I was the operations officer for 1st of the 501st Parachute Infantry Regiment, which was now where I'd commanded. I'd commanded as a rifle company in that unit. Right. I would come back to that unit as an operations officer, and now there was not just a battalion in that unit, but they stood up an entire brigade there, and so now there's a whole airborne brigade. 4th Brigade, 25th Infantry Division is there, and now we're fighting in Afghanistan, and we're in P2K, and part P2 with Paktia, and Coast, P2K. So those are the units, those are the areas that our brigade has. Paktia province, and Host. And we were in North Paktika, and we would fight the hardest fighting I'd ever seen in my life over the next 12 months. Over the next 12 months, it was all-out warfare. we started in Humvees. I had every Humvee in the battalion blown up by IEDs, every single one.
Jeez.
Then we would get MRAPs, and we would lose almost every MRAP had been hit by an IED or needed to be replaced.
Jeez Louise. And those are mine-resistant vehicles.
Yeah,
That's what
the
they're called.
MRAPs, the mine-resistant vehicles, had been hit and blown to pieces. Yeah, they don't.
So
their resistance. You don't get killed when you get hit by an IED in them. That's the resistance.
Right. It's resisting
their
your
V-hold.
death.
Yeah, their V-hold. Their resistance. They just blow the tires off them and blow all the pieces off of them.
Right.
But the people inside don't get killed. Like in a Humvee, if you are in a deep buried, low metallic, IED, you get killed.
Yeah.
That energy hits that flat bottom and it just blows you to pieces. And so we had transitioned out of all those. And then, so I get there in February, and then June comes around, and, we had, if you don't know Bo Bergdahl, I think I talked to you about Bo Bergdahl.
Yeah, you and I talked about it. Yeah, but he was a
U.S. soldier that walked off his base in Afghanistan. That was our soldier. So
it was your man.
So it was one of our companies in the 501st. He would walk off of an observation post. It wasn't a base. So people say it was a base. It was not a base. It was an observation post. So you have forward operating bases, you have combat outposts, and then you have an OP. So forward operating bases will contain like a couple hundred soldiers.
Right.
Combat outpost will be like 30 to 50 soldiers, and an OP is going to be like 20 to 30, 25 soldiers, and it's just going to be vehicles with not a lot of protection around it.
Because you're observing.
Yes.
You're a post out front.
We're
kind
an
of
observation post for an Afghan National Police checkpoint.
Okay.
So there was this road intersection that was having lots of trafficking of IED making materials and contraband, and all bad things happened at this intersection, or so the A&P said. And we wanted to get away from static checkpoints because they're just targets, and we wanted them to do more counter insurgency operations. But with less trained people, it's harder to do dynamic operations. And counterinsurgency operations or dynamic operations. It's much easier to do static operations if you're less trained. And so they gravitated with less trained conscripts into the Afghan police and army into these static positions, which were easy for the enemy to hit. And so we had an observation post guard in one of those. And we would have an incident with an embedded reporter where pictures would come out in the Guardian press that did not show U.S. forces in a good light, like horrible uniforms and
just lackadaisical attitude.
Lackadaisical. Like this was not the U.S. Army, for goodness sake.
Right.
And so the sergeant major and the commander went up there, caused a big ruckus, fired some people, some NCOs and officers, and getting them back. Hey, this is the way things are going to be here. And then Bergdahl would leave a couple days after.
Because he didn't like the new.
He didn't like the rules.
Yeah.
He didn't like. I don't know. He just didn't like that. And so he would leave, and then I would spend the next 21 days at that observation post trying to recover him. And then I'd spend the next 2 months as the operations officer running a surgical mission based on intelligence. For 21 days, I was running a day and night mission, air assault raid into pieces where we thought he might be, trying to get him before they would. The Haqqani network had him
before they put him on
got
TV
him
and cut his head off.
Well,
or some dumb thing like that.
or got him to Pakistan. They were trying to get to the Fatwa, the Federation of Unregulated. It's in this space in between Afghanistan and Pakistan that's lawless. It's where all the fighters come from every year. It's like their base camp to train Afghan fighters.
Wild West, Wild East, I guess.
And the only thing that I think saved him is because the Taliban didn't get him, or I think they would have cut his head off. But the Haqqani, which is an international criminal organization, Haqqani network, got him. And they do drugs and they do, hostages and that kind of stuff. And they thought, what can we get for him?
Right.
And I think that's what saved him from getting killed. Because he was captured relatively within the hour that he took off a base. He was in the process of being captured.
Yeah,
So.
I can only imagine his thought process on that. I don't know, and I've not read a ton on it or anything like that, and you probably do. But and it's neither here nor there. But as a person, just think of the thought process. I'm going to go out into a different country wearing a uniform of people that they're not necessarily friendly to what the clothes that I'm wearing.
Yep.
And I'm going to go out there and I'm just going to say, hey guys, hey, I don't like what's going on back there. I'm sure you have something better for me to offer me, or whatever the case is. I can only imagine what his mindset was.
And I've thought about that for years.
Yeah.
Years. And I think he was a private first class. He's Sergeant Bergdahl now. All that promotion happened while he was captured. He was PFC, private first class, Bergdahl.
Young kid.
19, and I'm just not sure how dangerous it is outside the wire. I mean, who tells you as a private who's get the MREs, go dig the position, go get behind the MC. You're told everything what to do.
Right.
And you see something and it looks like something from TV. There's a market over there and people are driving and family life is going on and all these types of things are happening and it just looks normal. Kind of, you become associated. It's normal.
Right.
Everybody out there is against you. He is in the worst district we own in Paktika province. It's where all the insurgents' family lives. It's where all the insurgents are building IEDs and planning their operations.
Right.
Everybody out there is related to an insurgent. So although it may look on the surface, okay, everybody out there does not. It is the worst place to go if you think you're going to go for a walk and get something at the market.
Yeah.
You're not going.
Yeah.
You're going, especially when you walk off at 4 a.m, early morning, get out there and people are just like, what the heck? And he was captured just right after he went off the base.
That quick, yeah.
Yep.
So that's got to be such a thing for you, where you're going back. Okay, how did I fail?
Yeah.
My guys?
Oh gosh. And first, it's just such a whirlwind. I mean, it's just it became the main effort for Afghanistan.
Mm-hmm.
It became the main effort for all of Afghanistan. Our unit became the main effort. Everything was thrown at us, and every team and SEAL team and you name it, every asset was down in our AO for us to figure out. And then it would change the dynamic of our AO for the rest of the time we were there. It became so dangerous because we wrecked it. We broke into everybody's house. We did everything to do this kid. So now, not just some districts hate it, but almost all the districts were against us, because we had such a presence there for so long. Even our friends didn't like us very much.
And it was an aggressive presence.
And massively aggressive presence. Not a friendly presence. And we would get, and so now you're getting intel where people are just scoring revenges and he's here. And it's not there. It's just somebody they don't like, and somebody, and so you have all these blood feuds and being settled and all this kind of thing. And we're getting intel and trying to parcel through the intelligence and then keep operations going was just so tough. And it made the rest of our time in that district so dangerous. And we would end up losing several people after that. My assistant operations officer got killed, and his RTO got killed after that. And, lost a lot of good people and rough fighting. Yeah. Cause we had the elections that year too. So we had the elections going on right after the Bergdahl thing. And so we've just wrecked our province, and now we've got to go set up all these polling sites everywhere.
Yeah.
And so we just became, every score that was going to be settled was going to be settled on these small units of Afghan army and police and U.S. forces out there.
Jeez. Now I know we're running short on time, and I want to kind of get to where we're at. So you go through not too long after this, you retire from the army.
Yeah.
Correct?
So I come back from Afghanistan. I would take a couple. I would be some other jobs. So I would go down to U.S. Northcom. I was on the National Situational Awareness Team down at U.S. Northcom. That's the eyes and ears for the Northern Command commander. So that's all of U.S. and Canada, Northern Command. And so anything a danger. So I spent 2 years there. I would go from there to command a basic training battalion, which really eye-opening. So I was a basic training battalion commander. So training all these troops who I've got to go put to war, Right. And so it really meant something to go through basic training at the time, because you're going to Afghanistan, you're going to Iraq. I've just been to both those places. They are not a cakewalk. Yeah. And they are tough. And so I really focus a lot on training those young men to get ready to go to combat, because it is not easy. Right. And it was not. And so, and then from there, I would become the deputy commanding officer, the deputy DCO for that infantry brigade up in the airborne brigade up in Alaska. And so I'd go back up there. I would be the DCO for 2 years. I'd take over as the G3, which is the director of training for U.S. Army Alaska. When I got promoted to colonel, I get promoted from major to lieutenant colonel to take my battalion command as a lieutenant colonel. I get promoted up to the deputy commanding officer job up in Alaska. I'd be promoted, do well in that job. I was promoted to colonel. I was serving as the G3 up there, and the brigade commander. So I'm the director of training. The brigade commander, he's a brand new brigade commander. They're getting ready to go to Afghanistan. They're doing the train up. He would do an airborne operation and break his back. And the next day I would be put in command of that brigade to send them to the Joint Readiness Training Center, which is where brigade commanders get their report cards. So 5 days after I get, one day I'm the director of training doing my job. I'm a young colonel. And the next day I'm in command of an airborne brigade that's got to go to Afghanistan. And I would take them to JRTC for that crucible, jump 1,700 guys into the training mission. It was our mission readiness exercise for Afghanistan. Then come back out and train them up to go to Afghanistan. And then another guy came in and took them to Afghanistan. And I went back to my job as the G3. But that's where when they talk about, you got to be ready for everything.
Right.
It's like 1 second you're sitting at your desk thinking everything's great. And the next second they're saying, pack your bags. You're going to take 5,000 people down and get them ready to go to Afghanistan.
And you're like, again.
And it was just like the weight of command. I could feel it, like 5,000 people.
Yeah.
And you're going down there and they're going to Afghanistan. And so you better get them ready. Yeah.
And you're now in this position that Lee was in, that we talked about before, where you're like, hey, can we get somebody else to do this? Because I don't think that I'm...
Well, you're just like, am I ready for this?
Yeah.
And it's like, well, if not me, then who?
Right.
If not me, then who's going to take them? And I had just been their deputy commander. I'd not been out of that position but about 5 or 6 months. So they knew me. Most of the people still knew me. They knew, because I'd been there for 2 years as the second in command of the organization. And so coming back, and I was like, hey, we're getting ready to go to Afghanistan. This is not a joke. Let's go. And I would spend about 5 months as the commander getting them ready to go till they found another brigade commander to replace him, and went off to Afghanistan because, I was filling 2 positions. Like there's no director of training either. So,
So you got 2 hats.
And then I was injured pretty badly in Afghanistan. IED attack, broke my back. That would be the reason I got out. So I would break my back in Afghanistan. I would come back from Afghanistan. I'd get that fused. Take me about 2 years to heal up. And then I thought it would be a good idea to keep jumping out of airplanes and keep being an airborne guy and road marching. And so
wrecking your back and
a fusion that should have lasted 20 years lasted about 8 years. And I was actually getting ready to leave that director of training. And so I was applying for a job to be the chief of staff for the U.S. Embassy in Iraq. So I had a buddy of mine that was doing that job. And I was going to just go there and replace him. I needed to deploy. It'd been a while since I'd been on a deployment. Right. So this was going to kill that. It was going to get me there. So I took my pre-deployment physical, and they're like, dude, you're not going anywhere. Have you seen your back? I had broken 2 screws off in that fusion. That fusion was like now messed up, really badly messed up. But at the time I was in great shape, and it's just pain. Pain's just weakness leaving the body, right? You get up, you stretch, you
pop
get
some
over
ibuprofen
it. Exactly.
And
keep going.
Yeah.
And so I was just thinking, it's just, this way things are. I was jumping out of airplanes and everything. And then they said, oh, hey, you instead of going to Iraq, you're going to go through a med board. And then I started fighting the med board, and I got the best advice from my brigade surgeon. He's another colonel, so on the staff of a two-star headquarters. He came down to my office and said, Jeff, stop. Just stop. He's like, you are just hurting yourself. You're hurting your family because you fight this. And then the VA will say later in life, they'll say, you did it. We said you shouldn't do this, and you didn't take the advice. So, you injured yourself. The Army didn't injure you. You kept injuring yourself. Right. You won't take the advice of the doctors and all this. And he said, you got to stop. And at that point, there's something from me clawing and screaming and not wanting to get out. I still felt like I have another years in me. I have more stuff to do. I'm not ready to get out as a colonel. And then something clicked when he said that. And I'm like, you're right. Yeah. All these little indicators, the pains of this or that. And we're like, you know what? You're right. I probably need to stop. And at that point, I was medically retired from the military. That's why I didn't spend a certain 24 years, 9 months and some days. And you never retire like that. You retire, only retirements happen on the first of the month and fives.
Or the 30s.
They're zeros, like at a specific year. There's not certain months. They're like 24 years, 9 months. What the heck? They know something happened. Like just right then, somebody knows something's up with that. And so I was medically retired. And part of the transition out of the military was you got to find a job. And Greg and I had been working on this project. It was called the Ethos Project at the time, but it was basically a leadership and training program to bring out to law enforcement. That's what it was. It was like he had seen it in law enforcement that the leadership and character development, ethics training isn't what it was when I was a lieutenant and what you found. And I think people can get through the bumps in their career if they have the training to do it and to be of good character and to, understand ethics and implement leadership to make themselves better. And so I brought Greg up to train 500 paratroopers in police ethics. And the response to that class was overwhelming. Like
really
police ethics to paratroopers. I mean, come on.
Right.
It was almost a mutiny to get them to go to the class. But once they went to class, the training really resonated with them. And I said, we have something here. And when I retired, I didn't go be a contractor. I didn't go take up making, 6 figures. I didn't go into one of those
security
jobs
at a hospital or something.
I didn't go into one of those jobs. I said, hey, let's go start a business. And we started with police with leadership and ethics training. And over the past 3 years, 2 guys, an infantry officer and a police officer who know nothing about business, have built a business. We now have 24 law enforcement, first responder agencies. We've just broken out into businesses, training leadership. And I think what's different is us, we understand the concept that everybody needs to be trained as a leader. Your organization is only as good as the people in it and how effective they are.
Right.
And we know if you want to become more effective at anything, it's your dedication to it and your ability to lead and implement leadership, which is influence and trust.
Even if you're leading yourself.
That's right.
Just even zero subordinates. And
if it's just you out there all by yourself, you're more effective if you're implementing leadership.
Or if you're the bottom man on the totem pole.
That's right. If you're just hired today, it's like at basic training.
Right.
Leadership starts when the doors of the bus open.
Right.
We start training them as leaders. The second we understand that they may be the last person, maybe up to them, private. It's you. Everybody else is gone. You still got to make it to the objective.
Right.
And so you have to have the fundamentals of leadership. And the private sector isn't like that. They don't believe that. Like most of the time when you start learning leadership is if you promote to a positional spot, then you're going to get some leadership training. Well, that's not when leadership starts.
Right.
Leadership starts at all areas. I don't care if you're working at fast food. Do you want that person being better at that, like excelling in those positions?
Yeah.
Treating your customers right. It doesn't matter what it is, but leadership is just influence and trust. Do you want people that can influence people and build trust in people?
Right.
That's where it boils down to. And Greg and I just, we purchased a physical academy at the start of the year. And so now in conjunction with training, going to our agencies and training them, we have a home base. We have our own training facility in Southern Oregon. It's in Phoenix, Oregon. And we've just had our summer leadership series there. I just had you in one of the classes. So we do law enforcement. We have a leadership series for them. And then we just broke out and we have a business class for business personnel.
And you do stuff online as well?
Yeah. And so we have online training. So all the training we do in person is available online as well. And then we have one of our courses called the Lifelong Learner course. It's a 20-hour leadership course that I facilitate and mentor the people through there. And it's an in-depth really study to, kind of go a little deeper than our 3-hour courses go.
Right,
and it's really self-development. It's how do I become a better leader in my personal life? How do I become a better leader in my professional life? And how do I use leadership to be successful in life, like long-term goals, like leadership philosophy and those type of things. And so, and it's really starting to take off. We started this with just a few contracts. I mean, just a couple police agencies. And now, we have police agencies all over the state, and we've broken out into business.
And you're willing to go to other states.
Oh, too. Yeah. We're willing to go. We're going to start pushing out some of our modules nationally, where you can buy pieces of our program nationally and get them back to the website to kind of get a little bit more exposure out there.
That's cool.
This is part of that, coming on and talking about my career and what I've done.
Well, I think it's important that you show where somebody came from. You give them some credibility. Obviously, you have a ton of credibility. You've seen a million things. You have heroes that you worked with that are no longer with us, or ones that don't have their arms anymore, or whatever the case may be. And your heart bleeds for them, and your heart bleeds for serving your country and doing more, and then supporting the people now in your hometown where you grew up with, and in the area you grew up, and supporting those people and saying, hey, I want to help provide some ethics and let them know that they are leaders and that they can do this and they can do whatever they need to do.
In a tough profession. In a tough profession. And it's not getting easier. From the 3 years, because this was pre-George Floyd and all that when we first started this.
Right.
And I've just seen the immense amount of pressure. And leadership, character development, ethics training takes that pressure off.
Right.
The better you are at leading yourself, at being able to lead yourself and stick to your character, your core values, and be able to demonstrate those core values, the better it protects you from the environment you're in. And it has gotten tougher for a lot of the agencies, we're in Oregon. Oregon's a great state,
It's supposed to be,
Oregon. We have some rough areas up north.
We're not Detroit, we're not,
we have some
LA
rough areas, but I look around Southern Oregon and most everybody loves the cops around here. But they feel it. They feel the pressure because it's everywhere you look, every device you pick up, everything you look at, and it made this job so much more meaningful. Is people have invested in me for 25 years. I don't even know the millions of dollars they've spent to make a colonel. What's it cost to make a colonel? Several $1 million, lots of money. And this is my ability to give that back to the people that, where I was a kid growing up on, 404 Liberty Street here in Medford, and my wrestling coaches and those type of things. And I can give back to this community that I love. I love Southern Oregon. Right. That's why we came back here. Right.
And it's called the Ethos Academy, ETHOS.
Yeah, Ethos Academy. And you can find us at ethostrainingacademy.com.
I bet you Google Ethos, and that's one of the first things
there's
pops
a couple
up.
other. I know there's like a school down in Phoenix and some others. But if you Ethos or leadership training, we're trying to get, our rankings up higher. But if you come, Ethos Training or Ethos Training Academy is our formal thing. And
get a hold of them. Go to your local police department and say, hey, you guys using Ethos? And that's, I don't care. I don't care if you're in Cincinnati. I don't care if you're in Arizona or something like that. You can do it, and it'd be cool.
Yeah, so. and we're ready for it. We're ready. We're ready to help out and definitely talk to anybody. And like we have a juvenile development program. One of the cool things, and I know we got short time, but one of the cool things we're doing is we're engaging with the schools at the junior high and high school level with leadership and character development, because that's one of the things we really believe is important. I know we're meeting with one of the football teams and we're briefing one of the other high schools here in the Rogue Valley.
Right.
Because we think it's not just for once you get out in the profession, but it's got to start young.
Yeah, but you can teach someone that they're a leader from the get-go. Like you said, when the doors open. Well, let's go even further that when they're in school.
That's right.
You can be a leader in school. You can be a leader at on
your
at
football
home,
team, or in your club,
in your youth group,
or
whatever you're in.
Exactly.
Yes, absolutely. I agree. So that is awesome. And like I said, I know we were short on time and stuff like that. You're a busy guy. You've got a lot of stuff to do, and I don't mean that in any condescending way, but I just want to make sure that people know that the opportunity that you're putting out there and that they have by learning from you or just listening to your story here today is such a blessing that we can have this, that you're willing to share this story of being the hero that you are. I know you're sitting there saying I'm not a hero or whatever, but that is absolutely what a hero does. They give everything and they're willing to keep doing it. And, okay, I can't physically jump out of airplanes anymore, but maybe I can do this. And you can take that stuff and share it with other people. And that's where our responsibility on this planet really is that service to mankind sort of thing.
That's right. I mean, and that's why, I making money didn't really, that wasn't one of the factors of the equation. I mean, my wife has told me that all the time. It's like, I'd like to still be able to make some money, but it was the purpose that it provides me, having given up the suit I wore for 25 years. Right. That's a lot of your identity. But then this job, when I look into the eyes of people that are just starting with a force or just coming out there, and I feel like I'm actually giving them something. They're learning something, that they're going to go take what I'm saying and actually implement that in their life, in their professional life, maybe at home or at school or wherever. Right. It's huge level of satisfaction.
I agree 100%. I think it's awesome. So, I guess if you have one last thing you want to say to everybody, what would be that last thing you could say to everybody? Just kind of
it'll be a quote, and it'll be a quote that I've used my entire military career with everybody that I've led and everything. And it was given to me by some people listening to your podcast may know him, but it was given to me by my high school football coach, Steve Turner. He was a defensive coach at the time. Later, coached the high school, and we were in the shower my senior year over at Spiegelberg Stadium. And he said, if what you did yesterday still looks good today, then you haven't done much today. And I have lived by that kind of quote. It's just, it doesn't mean what you did yesterday isn't good or great or those type of things, but what goal do you have for tomorrow? How are you trying to improve your life or the people, lives around you tomorrow? Right. And I've used that quote, with everybody that I've came in contact with, because it's just about how am I looking? And I always look like, what am I going to do tomorrow to make myself a better person, to make myself a better husband, a better dad, a better grandfather? What am I doing? Right. And if I'm not doing anything, then I'm probably failing myself or something else. And you don't have to change the world. Just what little thing you're doing. It may be just a phone call to someone. It may be just a text or something like that. It's like, and so that if I could share something, that's something I've shared with everybody that I've tried to influence my whole life.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And I will hold on to that, and I'll try to implement that myself. So, all right. So, Jeff, I appreciate you coming on. This has been awesome.
Well, thanks for having me, Ken. It's been awesome.
You're welcome back at any time, and we'll get Jeff, or we'll get Greg on here as well.
Yeah, we definitely have to.
And he I'm sure he's got stories, and he'll poke fun and whatever from high school.
He'll probably tell you all the things I didn't tell myself. Tell about myself.
Yeah. So, all right. Thanks, Jeff. I appreciate it. We'll talk to you later.
Yep.
Well, and this time, Jeff has actually left the building. So we are back. And I just wanted to, I thought that was just fantastic. I mean, some of those stories that he told, and we didn't get to a lot of stuff that we could have got into and really have this understanding of who this hero is. And I think it's cool that he's willing to come in here and tell these stories and share these things that are obviously on his heart, that are hard to go over and talk about sometimes, because you see people that you know, or you hear people that you know that have been killed or whatever. You're responsible for these people that are going out there and most likely putting themselves in harm's way, where they can get hurt, they can get killed. And are you going to feel the guilt for that? And I can only imagine where he's at with that. So, my hat's off to you. Thank you so much, Jeff, for coming on and talking about that. But, that brings me to everybody else that's out there that serves every day, that puts themselves out on that line. Police officers, firefighters, EMTs, all you guys that are doing that, and all you other are veterans that are out there doing that on the daily, that go out there. You're getting trained up. You're going to war. At least the past 20 years you've done that. But everything's kicking off. Everything's getting more tenuous, and all these other countries, they're doing their threats. They're doing whatever they're going to do, whether it's China or North Korea or Russia or whatever. We have all these, there's this tension going on. Those of you that step forward and say, I'm still going to serve my country, knowing that this could happen or that could happen, we can't thank you enough. So you have our gratitude, you have our appreciation, and you have, in my case, you have our support. Thank you so much for everything you do, you guys that are on the front lines, police officers that are out there trying to keep us safe at home, nurses and teachers who keep us, that give so much of your time to help us maintain this lifestyle that we have. And I mean that even for teachers, because you're helping our kids learn. You're putting that out there so these kids can know how to grow up and how to be better people and how to be willing to serve themselves. And there's a lot of people that don't see that side of it, and you have our gratitude here as well. So I want to thank Jeff Crapo for coming on, and that's the Ethos Academy. You can find him on the Ethos Academy. He is on social media, and I will get those social medias out to you. We didn't get a chance to really get into that so much, but we will see what we can do about putting that out there. But you can find us, the What's a Hero podcast, on Facebook, and we're on Twitter, and we're on Instagram, and I'm on LinkedIn. You can find us all there. Plus, you can find all of our episodes, prior episodes, on the What's a Hero podcast.buzzsprout.com. Go there. You can find all of our prior episodes. You'll find links that will take you to your favorite podcast platform. Go into there, subscribe to the podcast. It'll tell you when a new episode comes out. Go out there and download it. Downloads help us. So do that. And if you're listening to this and you haven't subscribed yet, come on, why not? What are we doing? We're 68 episodes in. Actually, more than that, because a couple of them from a while back were doubled. So actually, I have more. Nevertheless, go subscribe. Be a buddy. Nevertheless, you can find us there. Join the conversation. Ask questions. Say something. Reach out to me. I'll be happy to talk to you back, and we can have a solid dialogue. But thank you, everybody that goes out there and serves other people and does things for other people more than you do for yourself. You can't put a price on that. That is the number one thing on this planet you can't put a price on. So thank you for those that do that. So for Colonel Jeff Crapo, I have been Ken Fraunfelter, and this has been the What's a Hero podcast. We are clear.